Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. This Uchiha wants to return to his ancestor Otsuki. Chapter 1. The bright moon hangs high, and the stars are dim. The cemetery of the mountain is located, the dead grass is buried, and the phosphorus fire is dense. Uchiha Fuchi prowled the darkness like a silent ghost. The surrounding cliffs are dark and dark. Soon, he discovered the huge skeleton in his memory. Below this is the place where Uchiha Banto died alone. Hehe, Konoha's hero, Uchiha Obito. Who would have thought that this dead hero would start the Nine Tails Rebellion today, and declare war on the 5 ninja villages more than 10 years later? Standing in the darkness, Uchiha Fuchi spoke to himself silently. However, this Konoha hero would never have thought that he would come and steal his home when he was wreaking havoc in Konoha Hidden Village, right? Besides, Madara is the ancestor of all Uchihas. Who said that only Obito has the right to inherit the inheritance left by his old man? Uchiha Fuchi formed a seal and quietly disappeared into the night. In fact, as a member of the Uchiha clan, he felt from the bottom of his heart that disturbing the sleep of his ancestors was immoral and unfilial. But right now is the end of World War III, and the Uchiha clan is in dire straits after the Night of the Nine Tails. As the war subsides, the number of wartime missions that can be exchanged for advanced ninjutsu has been reduced precipitously. A 15-year-old ninja like Uchiha Yuan who has not yet opened Sharingan is not qualified to receive A and S level missions at all. The supply of resources is much less than that of wartime. And 7 years later, the Uchiha clan will officially usher in the extinction of the group. Uchiha Yuan, who knows that it is difficult to advance, has no choice but to try a risky choice. Taking advantage of Obito to set off the Nine Tails Rebellion in Konoha, he went to intercept the legacy left by whose ancestor Madara. At this time, Highway and Obito are carrying out terrorist attacks in Konoha, and there are only 2 or 3 Baiju at the Chunin level guarding the house. Considering the intelligence level of Obito, Shanji, I'm afraid it never occurred to anyone else to know the location of the base. Uchiha Yuan felt that he had a great chance of winning. The underground square was damp and wet, and Obito, whose body was covered by a brown coarse cloth cloak, was in a hurry, and no expression could be seen on his face covered by a tiger skin mask. A Fei and another degraded version of Baiju went up to meet them. They were as pale as dried white radish. Well, since you can come back, it means that the yellow flash is not very good. Obito, you did a good job. Konoha's ninjas must have been chased by Kyuubi. Well, they definitely have a great intention to defecate in such a critical situation. I really want to experience their feelings. A Fei, who was wearing a whirlpool mask, spoke frivolously, while the degraded version of Baiju walked around Obito a few times and looked up and down. Obito, why is the smell on your body not right? How should I put it? Maybe it's the residual poop smell. Could it be that Konoha ninja used poop ninjutsu on you? Seeing this, a Fei on the side also came up, and after carefully inspecting Obito, it praised Obito in a very comforting way. It's not bad, as expected of that guy Madara selected, even the breath and smell on his body are completely different from before. Obito, you were really cautious. You too, have you forgotten that Konoha has the Inuzuka clan who are good at scent tracking? Or after Madara's death, did you learn to make fun of me? In the right eye under the tiger skin mask, the scarlet and the 3-gold jade turned sharply. Obito looked at the 2 chattering white creatures, and the darkness in the eyes was throbbing. That's enough. I'm in a bad mood right now. You 2 are always on the lookout for the situation outside. I need to rest. Ignoring the 2 boring white creatures, Obito went straight to the depths of the base. Why is this guy angry? Is he held back by the desire to defecate? A Fei was puzzled. The degraded version of Baiju stared at the back of Obito. After all, it would be a heavy heart for Obito to fight against his most respected teacher in Konoha Hidden Village. I'll go look at him, you continue to be vigilant. The underground base, where the golems of heretics are stored. The huge dead tree stretched its branches wantonly. Looking up, Uchiha Yuan could tell that it was a giant. In front of the dead tree, the meat mass formed by the intercolumn cells continuously supplies nutrients. Uchiha Fuchi attacked the golem with chakra-infused kunai, and as he expected, the chakra was quickly absorbed without even leaving a white mark on the golem. This is not good. Single quote. Since he came to intercept Huban's legacy to Obito, Uchiha Fuchi did not intend to let go of the heretic golem. After all, this is the body of the 10 tails, an existence that can accommodate all the chakras in the ninja world. But it is undoubtedly unrealistic to remove the entire heretic golem. Old Bantu once said before his death that only those with intercolumn cells or eyes of reincarnation can control the golem of the outer way. Uchiha Yuan doesn't have these two things, but it would be too much of a waste of this opportunity to give up such a large pile of wealth as the golem of the heretics. Ju, you said that if I bring the heretic golem, Namikaze Minato will definitely die. Lin will be very happy. Hearing this, Baiju, who followed behind, gave a strange giggle. Obito, have you finally noticed the mother? Even if you are in charge of intercolumnar cells, it is difficult to control it without rigorous training. However, if you can really control mother, let alone Namikaze Minato, even Hashirama and Togama combined are not your opponent. Uchiha Fuchi let out an indifferent, hum. People like Baiju like to ridicule Madara in his lifetime, but they have a good attitude towards Obito. It seems that the relationship between them is better than what I imagined. Absolutely, I want to try this. Taking out a scroll from his arms, Uchiha Fuchi introduced it casually. The technique laughed by Madara can complete the attunement with the whole heretic golem through the fragments of the golem. Ju, I need you to help me get a piece of a golem. His tone became sincere, as if the white creature in front of him was his best friend since childhood. At this moment, the degraded version is completely white, and the brain that is not bright is trying to think. Madara did teach Obito a lot of secret arts during his lifetime, and he is not qualified to know it in his capacity. But that guy Madara did say before his death that Renshiriki can be transformed into a perfect Renshiriki by completing the attunement with the tailed beast. He wondered, could it be that Obito wanted to try a similar method? Absolutely, help me. You are my best friend, you can understand my determination to avenge Lin. Just Namikaze Minato is not enough, there is the entire Konoha and ninja world. As a reward, I will only tell you in the future, the wishes of all the people in Konoha Hidden Village before they die. Really, the plea of a good friend, the most important thing is the meaning that only you know. There is absolutely no reason to refuse the degraded version. Obito doesn't regard himself as a tool, in his heart he is more important than a Fei or even Highway. Before he had time to think, the degraded version of Baiju's body merged into the heretic golem, and when he came out, he held a piece of meat in the shape of a tree root. Fragments of heretic golems. Here, Obito, don't forget what you said. The fragments of the golem in the palm of his hand gave Uchiha Yuan an unreal sense of dream. But in the next second, the scene became awkward. After losing the chakra supply of the Hashirama cells, the golem fragments instantly absorbed Uchiha Yuan's chakra, and even the transformation technique was forcibly cancelled. He was exposed, watching Obito in front of him turn into a strange ninja with a mask on his face and a grey cloak. Baiju, who broke away from the golem, pinched his waist and laughed. Fool, you've been fooled. Sure enough, you're not Obito. How could the real Obito rush back without the trick of blurring? I plotted against you, your brain is full of mud. Uchiha Fuchi could feel his body becoming exhausted, his chakra was passing like a tide, and his exposed skin was pale visible to the naked eye. But the fragments of the golem in his palm were not only not satisfied at all, but sucked more greedily, like a blood-devouring banshee. The degraded version of Baizi leaned towards Uchiha Fuchi with a maniacal smile. Hey, you are really easy to deceive. Although I don't have any combat power, my brain is still very bright. Now, the credit for looking after the house falls to me alone, and I will definitely be shocked when I bring the soil back. But with the next breath, Uchiha Fuchi, who was weak and sluggish in front of him, dissipated with a bang, and the body hidden in the dark quietly emerged and grabbed the degraded version of Baizi's neck. Of course I know that golem fragments can absorb chakra characteristics. But, can you be immune? This reversal happened extremely fast, so fast that the tree root-shaped golem fragment was pressed into Baiju's mouth, and the white creature shrank into a ball of pale flesh before it even had time to struggle. After the golem fragments absorbed all the chakras of the degraded version of Baizi, and even absorbed half of the chakras of Uchiha Yuan's body, he calmed down. Uchiha Yuan took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down. He quickly took out the scroll and sealed the jerky-shaped Baiju before examining his own situation. Counting the transformation technique, shadow clone technique, sealing scroll, and the part absorbed by the golem fragments, he now only has about 1/8 of his chakra left. The bad thing is that Konoha has turned upside down and Obito may come back at any time. Even if he is in full condition, he is not an opponent with soil. Time is running out, but the legacy Koma left to Obito is definitely more than the heretic golem. Uchiha Yuan knew very well that Madara during the Fourth World War could not only use the ninjutsu of the Hashirama brothers, but also be transformed into Ten Tails Jinchuriki. After Madara's resurrection, he only left a shadow avatar pretending to be a corpse at the base in Senshubanjian. The later Hokages didn't even know that Madara didn't die in the Battle of the Valley of the End. These clues all show that in addition to the flame fan and the death scythe, this base definitely has an astonishing number of ninjutsu and secret techniques. It was brought out from the research base in Togama after Madara's resurrection. In this period of Konoha, it is almost impossible to exchange for advanced ninjutsu with tasks and achievements. The value of those jutsu is no less than that of heretic golems to me who lacks resources. Single quote. Thinking about this clearly, Uchiha Fuchi's eyes became hot. This only one chance to cut off must not be wasted. Half an hour later, Obito, who was wearing a crimson armor and carrying a flame fan and a death scythe, was in a hurry. At the exit of the underground plaza, Afei opened his arms to stop him. Obito, it's bad. Baiju is gone. Do you know where it went? Could it be that it wanted to defecate behind my back? Looking at this silly guy, Uchiha Yuan thought. Tell it, your good brother is in the sealed scroll, why don't you keep him company? Single quote. This would be too much of a hell joke. He was about to excuse himself and walk away, when the vortex-like ripples in the air beside him subsided, and Obito, clutching the broken arm of his left hand, emerged. The two Obito in the same dress made eye contact in the quiet air. With a broken arm and soil, he suddenly realized that when he was fighting to the death in Muyayin village, someone pretended to be himself and sneaked into the base. Thief. But before he could make a move, a violent explosion erupted deep in the stone chamber, and the other self dissipated into a puff of white mist with a bang. Scrolls, and ninja tools that have been passed down for thousands of years are scattered all over the place. Does the shadow clone still have the transformation technique? Under the tiger skin mask, Obito's face wrinkled with anger. Heiju, who came back half a step late, quietly emerged from the ceiling, just in time to see the scene in front of him. Only by turning on the kaleidoscope can you get a glimpse of Madara-sama's plan. That guy hasn't gone far. Obito, I'm going to hunt him down. If you're injured, find out what you lost as soon as possible. As Highway disappeared into the ceiling again, the underground base became quiet. After a long time, the roar of suppressed resentment echoed between the stone walls. Who is it? Konoha's Uchiha, or Kakashi? Only unlimited monthly reading can create a world where Lin lives, and I must not make any mistakes. 3 days later, a primeval forest at the junction of the Land of Fire and the Land of Grass. In the damp and cold underground cave, the buzzing electronic equipment is beating the symbols of gene fragments. This is Uchiha Yuan's laboratory stronghold specially prepared for this operation. After processing part of the golem fragments and sending them into the machine, he had time to think about the gains of this operation. Ancestor Madara, your richness makes this harvest far beyond imagination. After counting, Uchiha Yuan's mouth almost opened with a smile. On the same day, after obtaining the fragments of the heretic golem, his body immediately left the base while Afei was looking for Baiju, and the shadow clone he left behind successfully found the secret room where the ninjutsu scrolls were stored. Hey, the amount of collections really shocked Uchiha Yuan. I'm afraid that even the sealed book preserved by Hokage in the past may not be as rich as the old Freckles collection of ninjutsu. In addition to the Wood Escape and Water Escape series of ninjutsu possessed by the Hashirama Takama brothers, there are also Ancestral Fire Escape of the Uchiha clan and a large number of related secret arts. Uchiha Yuan not only saw Uchiha Fire Formation, Izanagi, Izanami and other sealing and forbidden techniques, but also Susanoo's development and use experience. In addition, many S-level forbidden techniques such as multiple shadow clone, spiritualization technique, dirty earth reincarnation, and Bakijujutsu, developed later by the old Bantu's deadly rival Senju Tomona included. At that time, the shadow clone arranged by Uchiha Yuan unceremoniously showed those ninjutsu and secret techniques. After the avatar disappeared, a vast amount of ninjutsu resources were transmitted to Uchiha Yuan's brain, giving him a dizzy sense of happiness. With these ninjutsu stocks, even if you learn a few forbidden techniques, it is enough to gain a foothold in the ninja world. Single quote. But these are not enough. Single quote. After digesting the happiness, Uchiha Fuchi tightened his face again. He studied under Orochimaru, one of the 3 ninjas. In the past, he learned the most knowledge related to scientific research. In terms of ninjutsu, he also mastered the Sanshenjutsu at the level of a ninja school graduate, and the Great Fireball, handed down by Uchiha's ancestors, surgery. This means that even if you have learned the forbidden ninjutsu above, you cannot easily use it in front of Konoha ninja. At least, except for the critical moment of life and death, I must hold on to it. Uchiha Yuan has a clear heart, and he still has a sense of confidentiality. What's more, I also have a grudge against a future 6th-level powerhouse Obito. Although cautious from beginning to end, no flaws were left. Uchiha Yuan didn't think he could succeed because Obito was careless and incompetent for a while. He looked over to the spinning, finished instrument. The golem's genetic solution is ready. In Uchiha Yuan's plan, this thing is the biggest gain of the adventure. Living in the war-torn era of the ninja world is a painful thing. Between Ninja Village, the fights and killings are endless. Without background, without resources, without strength, there is no way to survive the Third Ninja World War. After crossing, Uchiha Yuan vowed that he must cherish this hard-won second life. Therefore, before the Third Ninja World War, Uchiha Yuan agreed to the arrangement of the Patriarch Fuyu, and became a student of Orochimaru as a political investment. Since then, the endless living research on the captives has tortured his fragile nerves day after day. But Uchiha Yuan persisted. At least in the lab, he doesn't have to worry about being attacked by some ninja. Dealing with experimental equipment every day, by accident, Uchiha Yuan discovered his own secret. His cells confuse the genes of other species, and even retain most of the abilities of the original species. This discovery made Uchiha Yuan realize the opportunity to change his destiny. Heretic golems, sprites, pillar cells, tailed beasts, etc., there are many weird and tyrannical creatures in the ninja world. Hidden from his teacher Orochimaru, Uchiha Fuchi conducted more thorough experiments on his own cells. Slowly, he discovered that after his own cells inherited various abilities, the structure and shape of the cells would not change in any way, but they would lose the ability to continue to swallow the genes of other species in a short period of time. The gene sequence after phagocytosis has not undergone essential changes, but some useless gene fragments have been forcibly replaced. From then on, Uchiha Yuan slowly realized, even if you stay in the laboratory, your situation is no longer safe. Although the teacher Orochimaru treats himself as a political investor with courtesy, he is slowly becoming crazy. You must know that during World War III, that cold-blooded scientific research madman had already started to conduct human experiments with ninjas from the same village. Uchiha Yuan knew that the teacher Orochimaru was very smart, so after destroying all the experimental records about his own cells, he understands that what he needs is no longer hiding, but the pursuit of sufficient self-protection strength. Therefore, he targets the heretic golems. As the torso of the sacred tree, the tailed beast container, the body of Otsuki Kagaya, and the existence of the ancestor of chakra, the golem itself has various incredible abilities. A tough shell that absorbs chakra, devours souls, and even the tailed beast jade cannot be completely destroyed. Various characteristics made Uchiha Yuan decide to use the short-term cell phagocytosis and fusion opportunities on the golem of the outside world. Now is the time to realize the plan. Without waiting any longer, he injected the golem gene reagent into the jugular vein without hesitation. The blue blood vessels dilated, and the greasy heat spread along the skin, and Uchiha Fuchi could feel his beating heart. Soon a hot feeling surged all over his body, and a sense of no reason tried to occupy his mind. Uchiha Fuchi, who was fighting against that violent consciousness, felt as if he had turned into a pool of boiling water, and all the muscles and bones were melting and shaking. Holding his head in his hands, he passed out when the tearing pain in his body was on the verge of the limit of pain perception. I don't know how long time has passed, and when Uchiha Yuan woke up again, the candles on the edge of the cave hadn't burned out. Finally, I made it through. I knew that the fusion golem gene was painful, but I didn't expect to pass out from the pain. With a hoarse voice and a fishy and sweet throat rolling, Uchiha Fuchi took out a mirror from the toolbox to observe himself. At this moment, the pale skin was covered with hair-like creeping cracks. During the period of unconsciousness, his body suffered terrible trauma. Right now, the ugly scars are slowly creeping back. Half a minute later, all kinds of wounds caused by cell phagocytosis and fusion recovered. This is the self-healing ability of the heretic golem, which was mentioned in the old Bantu's research materials, which means I succeeded. Observing himself in the mirror with white and greasy skin, Uchiha Fuchi made a hand seal and sprayed the reduced version of the Holy Fireball technique on his forearm. The burning pain of the skin and the joy of absorbing ninjutsu chakra made Uchiha Yuan a little distracted. By the time he reacted, the black and red skin on his forearm was slowly wriggling and recovering. It's just that the recovery time this time was a full 5 minutes. After doing 2 more sets of controlled experiments, Uchiha Fuchi quickly understood. I have obtained the primary Muji self-healing ability. Under normal circumstances, the self-healing time only takes half a minute, and it can increase with the consumption of chakra, and when it is necessary to completely absorb and transform ninjutsu chakra. Muji's self-healing ability will be weakened. Generally speaking, as long as the amount of chakra remains above half, the speed of Muji's self-healing will not change. In addition, Uchiha Yuan can also feel some interesting changes in himself, so he can't wait to try it. After browsing the ninjutsu items collected by Lao Bantu for a long time, Uchiha Fuchi finally chose the 2 types of ninjutsu that deprive eyesight and kill instantly: water escape, water breaking wave, and illusion dark walking art. Uchiha Yuan believes that the vast majority of ninjas who have turned on Sharingan have a much higher fighting quality than ordinary ninjas. These 2 sets of ninjutsu developed by the second Hokage are specially aimed at Sharingan, and they are even more powerful against ordinary ninjas. It is true to say so, but Uchiha Fuchi still has some concerns about learning the 2 ninjutsu with a difficulty level of A. Originally, with his Zongnin level knowledge and chakras, it was just a dream to master these 2 sets of ninjutsu in a short period of time. But as Uchiha Fuchi closed his eyes, recalling in his mind the order and key points of the 2 ninjutsu's seals, his hands have completed the seals. The already dim candlelight was completely swallowed by the sudden darkness. Uchiha Yuan heard the breath in his mouth shoot out in the darkness like a water arrow. When the burrow was back to light, the scene in front of him made Uchiha Yuan dazzled. On the hard cave wall, there are still damp water stains in the cracks 2 to 3 meters deep and as thick as a thumb. Really? Clenching his fists excitedly, Uchiha Yuan was excited. The golem gene not only improved his physical fitness, but also improved his learning ability. You must know that even those geniuses in ninjutsu need to work hard in learning ninjutsu from a level up. And I only spent a few wu. The price is nothing more than a slight dizziness at the moment. As an ordinary chunin, he only uses A-level ninjutsu once or twice a day, and his body will not be able to bear it anymore. But right now, Uchiha Fuchi is squandering chakra recklessly, using the Dark Night Walking technique, and Water Escape Water Breaking Wave. It wasn't until Uchiha Yuan, who was lying on the muddy floor panting heavily, that his body reached the limit, finally confirmed it. The amount of chakra after the increase is about 5 cards. However, performing these 2 sets of ninjutsu at the same time resulted in a discount in power. And this shortcoming is not irreparable. Closing his eyes and being silent for a long time in the dark, Uchiha Yuan completely relaxed himself. How long have you not experienced such a feeling of freedom and happiness? Single quote. A short break of relaxation is like a dream. After waking up, Uchiha Yuan quickly swallowed Bingliang pill to restore his strength. The ability to absorb chakra, ninjutsu damage reduction, Muji self-healing, unstable high-speed learning ability, chakra increase, and even. While summarizing his own changes, Uchiha Yuan casually moved the remaining golem fragments in the corner. Making the gene solution does not require too many raw materials, so there are still a lot of golem fragments that Baiju obtained for him back then. The golem fragments as thick as an adult's thumb flew into Uchiha Fuchi's hands. This scene obviously exceeded the latter's expectations. After using the golem gene reagent, Uchiha Yuan found that he had a subtle connection with the golem fragments. It seems that the fragments of the golem are outside the body, part of its own flesh and blood. For example, at the moment, the fragments of the golem that climbed onto his finger are continuously sending chakra out according to his thoughts, while it itself becomes dry visible to the naked eye. Uchiha Yuan can completely control this golem fragment. Not only that, he can even take the initiative to cut off the chaotic call from far away in the dark. That is where the ontology of the heretic golem lies. Taking advantage of Obito's inability to fully grasp the alien golem, Uchiha Yuan cut off this induction without hesitation. Once Obito can completely dominate the golem of the outer way, it means that the other party can also reversely sense and track him. Cooperating with the terrifying range of Kamui, Uchiha Yuan knew that there was not much time left for his own development. He quickly smashed the damaged experimental equipment and destroyed the entire burrow, and then appeared in the primeval forest unhurriedly. The sunlight that shines through the gaps in the leaves makes people squint their eyes slightly. Uchiha Yuan greedily took a breath of fresh air between the two forests, and disappeared in place. This time I went out in the name of the task of finding medicinal herbs, and counting the time, it was almost time for teacher Orochimaru to summon me. The wind rises and the clouds rise, and the stars disappear. In an unnamed valley on the border of the Fire and Grass Kingdoms, a young ninja carrying a huge wooden fish with the characters, Seal, on his back climbed and fell into a cave in the dark. The warm firelight and the tangy aroma of the thick soup instantly swept away his fatigue. Heima, according to your instructions, I took this thing to the Kingdom of Grass and opened the seal 5 times during the period, not 1 time. I have completed the task. Inside the cave, a young man wearing a navy blue cassock nodded. His name was Kazuma, and together with the Konoha ninja Sarutobi Asuma, he was later the 12th guardian ninja. Of course, Tianlu, thank you for your hard work. If you do this, Konoha will not suspect that our Temple of Fire stole some of Nine Tails' power, and you are a great contributor. Is it the power of Nine Tails here? Haha, Kazuma, you are the great hero. With this thing, the strength of our fire temple will definitely catch up with Konoha Hidden Village. Heima nodded lightly, and handed over the bowl containing the thick soup in his hand. He made the young monk Tianlu feel that it was a kind of favor and honor with his kind eyes. That's why, Tianlu, I want to thank you for your dedication. The bowl in his hand fell. Tianlu never thought that Boss and Ma would attack him in such a place. But the twitching corpse lying on the ground spoke silently of betrayal. Okay, the only outsider who knew about it has been removed, now we just need to bring this thing back to the Temple of Fire. Set off. After waving with the horse, 5 ninjas carrying the same type of sealed wooden fish jumped out of the cave from the shadow at the edge of the fire. For a moment, except for the dancing flames, the whole cave was quiet. The sealed wooden fish on the back of the horse pulled over the corpse was on his shoulders, and a brown viper stood up behind him. Heima, this is the data scroll that Master Orochimaru asked me to hand over to you. I hope you will not mess up what Master gave you. I will appear by your side at any time to check. HMPH, as you please. Before the words were finished, Kazuma who snatched the scroll had disappeared in the empty cave. In front of the fire in the wilderness, it was midnight, and the brown viper quietly approached from the edge of the fire. Uchiha Yuan, who was resting with his eyes closed, threw the roasted rabbit leg in his hand. This is a communication psychic beast scale pill dedicated to Orochimaru, which has a similar function to the contact toad summoned by Jiraiya. Yuan, Oshimaru-sama wants you to deliver the herbs face-to-face at Linyu Pavilion near the Temple of Fire tomorrow at noon, and by the way, he will inspect your ninjutsu practice during this period. I understand, Rinmaru-sama. The flames danced, and the scale pills had quietly disappeared on the edge of light and shadow. In Konoha Hidden Village, ninjas are not allowed to leave the village except to go out to perform tasks or apply for registration in advance. This adventure to intercept Huyuzibo Madara's legacy is naturally taking advantage of the gap between completing the herb gathering task delivered by teacher Dashawan. But Uchiha Fuchi thought to himself, this year Orochimaru has been obsessed with research, and many of the tasks issued by him are relayed by Rinmaru. At this time, how could he have the time to meet himself in person? Could it be that he has already completed the development of ninjutsu such as Undead Reincarnation and Curse Seal? In fact, Uchiha Yuan still has some taboos in his heart about meeting Orochimaru. In his opinion, whether it is the identity of the Uchiha clan or the secrets he needs to hide, it is best to keep a proper distance when getting along with the teacher Dashimaru, as long as you use your political bargaining chip as the patriarch's investment. Uchiha Yuan believes that the previous Orochimaru may have the same idea. After all, there is no Uchiha who has opened his eyes, not to mention the value of research, not even the value of cultivation. But the other party wanted to deliver the herbs face to face at the Linyu Pavilion near the Temple of Fire. Wait, Temple of Fire. A flash of lightning flashed in Uchiha Yuan's mind. On the Nine-Tails night, the gang of ninja monks from the Temple of Fire deliberately collected scattered-tailed beast chakras around Konoha Hidden Village. Even a few years later, a degraded version of Nine-Tails Jinchuriki was successfully cultivated. Orochimaru asked himself to meet near the Temple of Fire, and the ninja monk of the Temple of Fire made a low-quality imitation Nine-Tails Jinchuriki incident, and the teacher also got involved. Uchiha Yuan felt that this was quite in line with Orochimaru's behavior style, but what was the teacher's purpose for doing this? Later, the Temple of Fire even planned to destroy Konoha Hidden Village by imitating the Nine-Tails Jinchur power. At this time, Orochimaru should not have been hostile to the third Hokage and Konoha to that extent. So, what kind of medicine is sold in teacher Orochimaru's gourd? Could it be that he had long thought about becoming Renjuli? However, no matter what Orochimaru's plans are, this time Uchiha Yuan must go to the appointment in person. Before the master-student relationship is broken, Uchiha Yuan does not intend to take any risky moves. He quickly filled his stomach and extinguished the campfire. It takes a whole day's journey from here to the Temple of Fire, and we must leave immediately to avoid being late. The shadow of the whirling tree quickly flashed behind him, and the time was already approaching midnight. Uchiha Fuchi, who was concentrating on his journey, suddenly stopped at the top of the tree, staring at the dazzling light shining deep in the primeval forest. It was a lighting flashbang that ninjas would only use in emergency operations. Following the light, Uchiha Yuan saw two teams of ninja teams chasing and killing a young man dressed as a monk from the Temple of Fire. He didn't want to meddle in this nonsense. After all, the Temple of Fire, which is closer to the daimyo of the Fire Country, has always been difficult to deal with Konoha Hidden Village. But the strong longing deep in his body forced Uchiha Yuan to stop and rush to the place where the fight was in the light. The fragments of the golem in his arms were also eager to move, expressing the same desire to Uchiha Yuan. Meet delicious food and feel very hungry. Single quote. Uchiha Yuan didn't understand what was the source of this ridiculous hunger. When he came back to his senses, his body had already shuttled in the virgin forest. The dark green needles slide quickly behind you, and the fresh air is refreshing. Uchiha Fuchi was getting closer and closer to the range of the flare. He actually wanted to leave. After all, as long as the herbs were delivered to Orochimaru, the goal of coming out was perfectly achieved. For the rest, just continue to hang out in the laboratory and practice ninjutsu in silence. After all, according to his current ninjutsu resources and potential, even if it is the night of the genocide, as long as he does not join the security department, Uchiha Itachi of the genocide is not his opponent at all. At that time, if I mastered a forbidden technique, I would have a high probability of surviving even in the face of Obito. But Uchiha Yuan also knew in his heart that once he left at this moment, he might never have the chance to figure out the source of this hunger. Simply, he lurked in the dark and climbed to the crown of a pine tree as thick as two people hugged each other. Under the cover of dense needles, Uchiha Yuan quietly looked down. As a flare goes off, new ghosts of light fill the dark forest. The monk jumping at the front was panting and dressed in rags. He was carrying a huge wooden fish with letters on his back, and he didn't forget to look back while jumping. The ninja wearing Iwagakure's forehead was getting closer and closer to him, and soon reached the range of the shot. The friction between the shuriken and the kunai and the air erupted with a hissing roar, and the monks of the Temple of Fire hid behind the tree trunk in a panic. It was precisely because of this move that the tracking Yenian ninja quickly approached the hiding place of the monk of the Temple of Fire. Uchiha Fuchi, who was hiding in a high place, saw all this and sighed. The forest under his feet was already very close to the border of the Nation of Fire. As long as he crossed the border, the Yenian ninja might not dare to continue chasing it. You know, Konoha and Iwayne are currently negotiating a peace treaty, but the war is not completely over after all. It was for this reason that the tracking Yenian ninjas sent out a small team to surround the monks of the Temple of Fire. The besieged monk didn't panic. Uchiha Fuchi saw that he had formed a clone seal, and put a stack of explosive charms on the clone. Then, the avatar escaped before the Yenian ninja was completely encircled. Catch the living one, don't hurt his life. Just as the leader of Yenian yelled a few times, the monk's clone bumped into him. With a deafening explosion, the scene suddenly became bloody. The surrounding Iwagakure had no time to escape, and they were blown upside down. Half of Kusanogakushi's forehead was inserted into the tree trunk next to Uchiha Fuchi, trembling non-stop. Hey guy, is this Kusanagi ninja pretending to be a monk from the Huo temple? Uchiha Fuchi didn't remember that the Iwagakure ninjas had the habit of collecting the Kusanagi ninja's forehead, but the Kusanagi ninjas often pretended to be other hidden village ninjas and did some shady deeds. Soon the reactions of those Iwagakure ninjas confirmed Uchiha Yuan's conjecture. The Yonian either used water escape ninjutsu to extinguish the flames on their companions, or used thunder escape ninjutsu to attack the hiding place of the monks in the Temple of Fire. Surprisingly, no one used the standard earth escape ninjutsu. After a long time of trouble, it turned out that Kusakashi wanted to snatch something from the monk of the Temple of Fire. That thing was sealed in that huge wooden fish. This kind of speculation made Uchiha Yuan suddenly understand that the thing that aroused his hunger was on the monk of the Temple of Fire. It's just that this young monk is obviously not a good stubble. After plotting against a group of Yanwayan ninjas, he sneaked into the ground quietly. When it reappeared, a ninja of Yanwayan who was still alive was wiped silently on the neck. The scene became more chaotic, and the viciousness of the young monk was far beyond Uchiha Yuan's imagination. Taking advantage of the chaos of the Yanwayan ninja, the young monk silently assassinated Yan Yin, who released the flare, and the virgin forest was completely darkened. Uchiha Yuan controlled his breathing, and after losing his vision, he kept screaming in the darkness. Apparently, the young monks of the Temple of Fire, who had been concentrating on escaping before, became murderous towards these Yonian. Uchiha Yuan also understood what made the monk of the Fire Temple change his mind, when even the screams disappeared in the dark. He felt the huge sealed wooden fish appear beside him, and the monks from the Temple of Fire hadn't left yet. The fragments of the golem in his arms squirmed uneasily, and a cold voice sounded behind him. Who are you? Are you with them? The ruthless monk of the Temple of Fire has long discovered the existence of Uchiha Fuchi, and even lurked behind him silently through the darkness. I am Konoha's ninja, at least outside of the Fire Nation, there is no need for us to conflict. Pressing the squirming lump of flesh in his chest, Uchiha Fuchi controlled the tremolo. So you are Konoha's ninja, are you alone? The young monk had no emotion at all, and the kunai in his hand had already been handed to Uchiha Yuan's neck. It was at this moment that several flares rose around. Nearly 20 ninjas wearing Kusakashi's forehead protection appeared silently on the scattered branches all around. From the beginning to the end, the teams of those two teams were just bait for chasing the monk of the Temple of Fire, and the Kusanagi ninja who really chased the monk of the Temple of Fire had already surrounded this place. The bright light in the darkness made the young monk subconsciously protect his eyes with his hands. Uchiha Fuchi did not waste this opportunity. His body hidden in the dark quietly formed a seal. Illusion dark night art. Single quote. Water escape water break wave. Single quote. Flares were quietly burning on the edge of the tree trunk, but at that moment, the monks of the Temple of Fire and even those Kauyan were deprived of their vision. In the darkness as thick as ink, Uchiha Yuan's vision was not affected in any way. The jet of water from his mouth tore apart the monk closest to his body first, and then Uchiha Fuchi's pupils reflected the Kusanagi ninjas surrounding him. The fighting qualities of these Kusakashi are not high, and only one of them is wearing a Chunin-style vest. They have not yet adapted to the sudden darkness before them, and they have not even had time to react. Uchiha Yuan did not let them go. If it was these grass hermits who had the upper hand at this moment, then I, who broke through their secrets, would never be able to leave this forest alive. 10 minutes later, Uchiha Yuan, who had disposed of all the corpses, returned to the crown of the tree where he was hiding before. The shadow clone has disappeared, and the fragments of the golem previously hidden in the clone's arms are wriggling and pounced on the huge wooden fish with the seal on it. But as soon as he got close to the paper talisman, tiny lightning shot out from the void, and the fragments of the golem were ejected far away, and then crawled back wriggling. After doing this several times, Uchiha Yuan, who was laughing at the sight, lifted the sealed talisman. A miniature orange fox jumped out of the huge wooden fish and roared at Uchiha Fuchi aggressively. But before the little guy could make a move, the fragments of the golem had already pounced on it, devouring the nine-tailed chakra in an instant. Touching the contented fragments of the golem spread on the tree trunk, Uchiha Yuan also felt a sense of fullness. He felt that after devouring the nine-tails chakra, his body was undergoing some wonderful changes. Subconsciously, Uchiha Fuchi took out kunai and scratched a wound on his forearm. 10 seconds passed, and the scars returned to their original state. Uchiha Fuchi's black pupils were throbbing with excitement. After devouring the nine-tails chakra, his Muji self-healing ability was strengthened by more than half. Not only that, the active chakra made Uchiha Yuan feel that if the current self releases the Dark Night Walking Technique and Water Escape Water Breaking Wave, the power will definitely be stronger than before. Nine-tailed chakra has the effect of improving Muji's self-healing ability and enhancing the power of ninjutsu. More importantly, at this moment, Uchiha Fuchi could faintly sense a few similar groups of chakras moving slowly not far around. That was the real source of his previous hunger. Nine-tails chakra. Looks like tonight is a hunting night. Whispering in a low voice, Uchiha Fuchi quietly disappeared into the night. Who are you? The monk just wanted to keep you quiet for the time being, and didn't want to kill you at all. Why did you suddenly attack? Ah. Brothers of Kurigakure, don't let that guy escape, or we can only go back to the business with our heads up. Ah. Thank you, you are here to help me, right? Can I let the little monk know your name? Sound of falling to the ground. After being strengthened by the nine-tails chakra, whether it is the Kusanagi ninja or the monk of the Temple of Fire, Uchihabuchi can deal with it as easily as cutting melons and vegetables. Counting the case in front of him carefully, this is the fourth conflict between Kusakakakushi and the monk of the Temple of Fire that he has dealt with. Uchiha Hitomi felt that it was not too much to charge that wisp of nine-tails chakra as a mediation fee. After disposing of the corpse, Uchiha Yuan, who had calmed down, began to examine his own situation. After absorbing 5 times of nine-tails chakra, the fragments of the outer Tao golem have swelled into round meatballs, which are being continuously transported into the body through contact with chakra full of extremely powerful vitality. While the physical fatigue is slowly subsiding, Uchiha Fuchi is also verifying the changes in himself. Muji's self-healing ability is a bit faster than when he first obtained the nine-tails chakra, which can break through the 10-second mark. But the power of ninjutsu has indeed improved very intuitively. When dealing with those ninjas and young monks of Kusanagi at the beginning, Uchiha Fuchi's illusion Dark Night Walking Art, with all his strength had a coverage area of only 10 meters, and the Water Escape Shui Break Wave was only a few meters away. But as the golem fragments absorbed more and more nine-tails chakra, the coverage of the Dark Night Walk was fully expanded to 15 meters, and the water column of Water Escape Water Breaking Wave could also explode accurately at a distance of more than 10 meters. Head. In addition, one's own ability to resist blows, physical skills, and the ability to absorb chakra have also increased to varying degrees. In the battle with Kusakashi just now, Uchiha Fuchi accidentally received a Thunder-done ninjutsu face-to-face. But the ninjutsu damage didn't even stop him from moving. A few minutes had passed by now, and even the wound had completely healed. You must know that when the golem gene was first fused, the ninjutsu damage took a full 10 minutes to heal. Nine-tails chakra is a treasure. But the golem fragments are already full, and Uchiha Yuan also tried to absorb the nine-tails chakra by himself. After the malice contained in it almost made him go crazy and out of control, Uchiha Yuan gave up this suicide act. After Uchiha Yuan calmed down in front of him, he had 2 thoughts in his mind. 1. How to further cultivate the golem fragments of heretics. 2. Get more nine-tails chakra. Uchiha Yuan knew that after the night of Kyubi, the souls of half of Yin Kyubi and 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato were sealed in the belly of death. At this time, the mask representing the god of death is being stored at the edge of the village, in the Namian Hall of the Uzumaki clan. But to get the Nine Tails chakra, one must first master the solution of the sealing technique, ghoul sealing technique, which is not in the old bald head's collection of ninjutsu. Uchiha Yuan can only get this set of sealing technique from his teacher Orochimaru, and then consider the corresponding solution method. Fortunately, as a time traveler, he knows some details. As for the further cultivation of the heretic golem fragments, Uchiha Yuan is not too worried. Whether it is intercolumnar cells or natural energy that provides energy for growth, there are relevant records in the research notes of old spots. Uchiha Yuan intends to study slowly after returning to the village. At the moment, after completely destroying the scene like the previous few times, Uchiha Yuan left in a hurry. While this rash action was fruitful, it also made it shorter for him to arrive at the Temple of Fire as scheduled. As for the wisp of Nine Tails chakra left in the induction, Uchiha Yuan completely gave up this idea. Half an hour later, two ninjas wearing cow-headed and horse-headed masks appeared in the primeval forest. This is the high-level leader of the main combat faction in Kaoyan village, Sao Zishi, who is good at using confinement ninjutsu. The death of several Chunin and more than a dozen genin made the senior management of Kaoyan village unable to sit still. They only have the strength of ninjas, risking their lives to come to the last place before the death of the ninjas in the village. I didn't even see the corpse. How ruthless is the guy who killed me and other subordinates. The senior executive of Kaoyan village wearing a bullhead mask inspected the surroundings for a while, and the only conclusion he came to was that the person who did it was extremely agile and definitely a seasoned ninja. Do you think these are traps, and the other party deliberately set them up for us? Cao Yin, who was wearing a horse head mask, felt lingering fear. Hey, Orochimaru, these things happened, shouldn't you give us an explanation? The high-ranking Kusakashi who was wearing a bullhead mask shouted into the darkness. What do you want to explain? Our transaction is not provided by me, and you are here to intercept the items. But you didn't provide me with what I wanted. The failure of this transaction is your problem. A hoarse, cold and emotionless voice sounded in the darkness, although the sick man with pale skin was not seen. However, the two high-ranking members of Cao Yin could feel the coldness growing all over their bodies. But you promised to help us revive the box of Elysium. HMPH. Wait until you get the Nine Tails chakra, and then ask me to restart this deal. The cold feeling in the darkness completely disappeared, and Orochimaru had already left before Kusakashi's senior management agreed. And the two high-ranking Kusakashi didn't even realize that they couldn't even breathe hard when they were talking to Orochimaru, one of the three ninjas who hadn't seen each other. After strengthening my physical fitness through the Nine Tails chakra, the journey was not as exhausting as I imagined. Originally, Uchiha Fuchi thought that he would even be late, but when he arrived near the Temple of Fire, he was a full 2 hours earlier. When it was 15 minutes before the appointed time, Uchiha Fuchi approached Linyu Pavilion. Although the teacher Orochimaru is obsessed with research, he has a very fine control of time. He doesn't like making people wait, and he doesn't like waiting for others at the same time. Of course, these are all Orochimaru's habits when he was still in Konoha Hidden Village. When he escapes from Konoha in the future, Uchihabuchi doesn't know what he will become. It was 15 minutes earlier, and there was indeed no Dashimaru in the Linyu Pavilion. I saw the three girls who were smiling and talking in a low voice after seeing Uchiha Yuan, and they were in a much happier mood. Yuan, as expected, you are the last one in our Orochimaru class. Uchiha Fuchi spread his hands and took the initiative to talk to him. The demure girl was a few years older than him, and her name was Kurama Zion. He is a child of the famous blood successor Zenkai Kurama family in Konoha Hidden Village, and a former student of the Orochimaru class. During World War III, Daibin Orochimaru served as the guide for Jonin. Hey, you fool, you're still alive. Midori Anko is the one who speaks freely. She is the youngest among the four, but because she is the most appreciated by Orochimaru, her words and deeds are eccentric and arrogant. Uchiha Fuchi smiled and said a few words to Kurama Zion, and waved at Midori Redbean as a greeting. Yuanjin, you came later than me, it's too much. The last person to talk to Uchihabuchi was Hyuga Ryo, a branch ninja of the Hyuga clan. Although she usually behaved as gentle and demure as Kurama Zion, Uchiha Fuchi knew that if this girl with fair pupils was cut open, the ninja world could use oil for hundreds of years. Sure enough, while the two were not paying attention, Hyuga Ryo came over with small steps and tugged on Uchiha Yuan's sleeve. Yuan-jun, is it convenient? There is something I have always wanted to tell you. Uchiha Yuan was surprised, and then nodded. During the period when I went out to collect herbs, I didn't know what happened in Muya-yin village, so I could just ask Hinata Ling about it, so as not to accidentally miss the trick later. Yuan-jun, after you left the village, I accidentally saw a ninja wearing an animal mask coming to take your grandma out of the village. I don't know what they are going to do, but after the nine-tailed demon fox made a fuss in the village all night, I went to check it out of curiosity, and unexpectedly found that your grandma has returned to the village. Hinata Ling lowered his voice, as if he was afraid of being heard by others. Uchiha Yuan was taken aback. First of all, my grandma passed away a long time ago, and I have no direct blood relatives in the Uchiha clan. The grandma mentioned by Ling is Uchiha Obito's grandma, that is, Uchiha Yuan specially went to the old man's house to take care of her in order to play the former well. Apparently, Hyuga Ryo recognized the wrong person. However, the ninja wearing the animal mask is Anbu. Why did Anbu take away Obito's grandmother? Why did Hyuga Ling tell himself this matter specifically? Could this little girl be aware of her secret actions? Just when Uchiha Fuchi was puzzled and shocked, Hinata Ling narrowed his bright eyes and added. These words are what Mr. Orochimaru asked me to tell Mr. Yuan. Uchiha Fuchi was as stiff as if struck by lightning, and he eagerly grabbed Hinata Ryo's arm in a flash of thought. What's the matter with the nine-tailed demon fox? Is that grandma related to the nine-tailed demon fox? Ling, you'd better explain it to me. Let me tell Mr. Yuan about the rest. Orochimaru silently emerged from the shadow outlined by the sunlight overhead. He was as pale as ever, exuding an inhuman cold aura. Uchiha Fuchi thought that sure enough, the crazy batch of snakes arrived very early, and he has been hiding in the dark to observe. As for Anbu's visit to take away Obito's grandmother who was taken care of by him, I'm afraid it was also instructed by Orochimaru. That's not Anbu at all, but the root of Danzo's subordinates. Orochimaru obviously misunderstood something, and wanted to use Obito's grandma to let him open Sharingan. As soon as this idea came into being, Uchiha Futoshi felt like a light on his back. The place where the medicinal herbs were collected was designated by Orochimaru. As long as the timing is correct, he can order the people at the root to kill Obito's grandma in front of him. Being mentally stimulated, I am likely to open Sharingan on the spot. Uchiha Yuan didn't believe that Orochimaru did it with good intentions. Although Orochimaru in this period was not obsessed with Uchiha's body to the point of madness, most of them had already developed an extremely strong interest in Shueiji Genkei. Aside from Sensho, Uchiha, Hyuga, Kurama, the Orochimaru squad includes the third of Konoha's four blood successors. Both Kurama Zion and Hyuga Ryo's bloodstain boundary are in normal development progress. How could he ignore his own Uchiha? Crazy snake. While cursing wildly in his heart, Uchiha Yuan looked blankly at Orochimaru who was smiling. Teacher, what happened to what Ling said? Could it be that there have been huge changes in the village in the past few days? Before Orochimaru could explain, Midori Anko jumped out and said excitedly. Uchiha Fuchi, you guessed it right this time. The Uchiha clan controlled Kyuubi and almost destroyed Konoha village. Uchiha Fuchi raised his eyebrows, and the younger sister's words were obviously unbelievable. Red Bean, you can eat indiscriminately, but you can't talk indiscriminately. The Nine Tails incident is indeed related to Sharingan, but it may not be related to the Uchiha clan in the village. Yuan-jun, you don't have to be nervous. Isn't that right? Kyuubi is wearing such a big pair of three-god jade Sharingan, it must not be Uchiha Yuan who did it, he didn't even open Sharingan. Midori Anko made a grimace at Uchiha Fuchi, stuck out her tongue, and happily ran away to watch the scenery. Being made such a fuss by her, the originally invisible tense atmosphere eased a lot. Orochimaru looked helpless. He raised Hongdu as his own daughter, and it seemed that there was a problem with raising red beans. Uchiha Yuan looked at Orochimaru. He always felt that his teacher's personality was a bit split. Okay, Mr. Yuan, Don't listen to Hongdu's nonsense, this is how it happened. With Orochimaru's narration without the slightest emotion, Uchiha Yuan began to understand the Knight of Nine Tails. In fact, Uchiha Yuan knew more than Orochimaru, and even took the opportunity to steal the home of the culprit Obito. However, the details that Orochimaru narrated are quite rich. It seems that he was in Konoha Hidden Village at that time and witnessed the whole process. Uchiha Yuan is not surprised that Orochimaru did not come forward to help solve the Kyuubi chaos. During this period of time, my teacher's ideological awareness is completely different from that of other ninjas. Fourth Hokage and his predecessor Jinchuriki were killed by Kyuubi. That is to say, teacher, are you going to be fifth Hokage? Uchiha Fuchi felt that Orochimaru was in a good mood, so he dared to ask, presumptuously, after the other party had just finished speaking. Gen-kun, you were right. The only ones in the village who are suitable to succeed Hokage are Tsunade and Jiraiya. And I am more suitable than them. Facing the students' inquiries, Orochimaru did not have the slightest demeanor of a humble elder. Uchiha Yuan knows that for the teacher Orochimaru, as Hokage, he can conduct research unscrupulously, becoming the second Hokage of Sensho Togama, even surpassing Sensho Togama. Then congratulate the teacher in advance. Hearing this, Kurama Zion and Hyuga Ryo finally reacted. After the death of the fourth generation, if the teacher Oshimaru really becomes Hokage, then the political investment of their family will be considered a success. At that time, they can also live more easily. Congratulations, teacher. Congratulations, teacher. Only Midori Hongdu was in a daze for a while before he figured out what was going on. Okay, it's too early to congratulate. Let's get down to business first. Orochimaru doesn't feel any compliments from the students, and becoming Hokage is just to facilitate his own scientific research, it's just a means, not the ultimate goal. First of all, Mr. Yuan, I entrust you with the herbs. Uchiha Yuan presented the scroll of sealed herbs. Busy with smuggling the Tujia, he naturally didn't have time to gather herbs himself, so Uchiha Yuan had already entrusted the ninja cats of the affiliated family to buy a large batch from the Hongzhou Shangnan. This almost emptied all his family assets. Yuanjin, I know that you didn't follow my instructions to gather herbs, and I specially arranged for the root people to take away the old grandma you have been taking care of. I know the old man is the grandmother of Sharingan hero, Uchiha Obito. Yuanjin, you don't have any relatives in the village, that old lady is very important to you, right? While checking the quality of the herbs, Orochimaru said as if no one was around. Up to now, he simply indirectly admitted that all the incidents were planned by him behind the scenes. Isn't this kind of frankness a blow to Uchiha Yuan? The atmosphere that had finally become cheerful was instantly overshadowed, and Uchiha Hitomi tried his best not to express any unnecessary expressions. In this era, ninjas are tool people. Orochimaru's approach is in line with the style of a ninja, but not like a normal human being. Teacher, I will try my best to open Sharingan. Orochimaru did not continue to delve into it, and he said without emotion until he confirmed that the herbal medicine was correct. There is a very important task for calling you here this time. From now on, you will act with me. Hearing the mission, Midori Anko was the most excited. During World War III, Orochimaru's squad was more engaged in scientific research, raising supplies and other tasks. There was no danger, and naturally it was not interesting. She was already bored to death. Uchiha Fuchi glanced at this ignorant guy. Compared to the calm Hinata Ryo and Kurama Shiun, Midori Anko looks like a child. Maybe Orochimaru really raised her as a daughter and spoiled her. At this moment, there was only a bang, and a light green signal flare with a tail flame was ignited in midair. This is not the style commonly used by Konoha ninjas, but Orochimaru recognized it at a glance. Okay, the other party has already sent a letter. You first follow me to the Temple of Fire. Along the way, Uchiha Fuchi was a little apprehensive. Last night he beheaded all 5 Honoji ninja monks who were escorting Nine Tails Chakra. Although it is not yet known whether the mission Orochimaru is talking about is related to those Nine Tails Chakras, Uchiha Fuchi thought to himself that he was agile at the time and did not reveal any information about himself. Even if he stood in front of the ninja monk of the fire temple who returned alive, the other party would not recognize him. A quarter of an hour later, there was a deserted courtyard near the Temple of Fire. Transformed into pilgrims, Uchiha Fuchi and his party saw a group of bald ninja monks burning incense and chanting sutras around a huge wooden fish. The style of that huge wooden fish is very familiar. Last night, Uchiha Fuchi dismantled several of them. Orochimaru's face became ugly after talking with the long-haired green-robed ninja monk and horse. The number of huge wooden fishes was less than half of what was expected. Although it would not delay the next thing to do, it obviously did not satisfy Orochimaru. Uchiha Fuchi, Hinata Ryo, Kurama Zion, and Midori Anko stared at the huge wooden fish surrounded by ninja monks. They could all feel an ominous and fierce aura filling it. Orochimaru, accompanied by Kazuma, walked towards the huge wooden fish surrounded by many ninja monks. Before leaving, he did not forget to explain to his students. Okay, you guys have to watch carefully, this is one of the few moments where you can observe the creation of Renjuli up close. Hearing this, Uchiha Fuchi, Hinata Ling, Kurama Zion and Midori Anko all became nervous. The seal of Renjuli is a secret of the village. They have only heard of it, and have never seen it up close. The explanation of the teacher Orochimaru means that they can watch the sealing technique up close. This is a unique opportunity. Uchiha Fuchi opened his eyes wide. Soon, he discovered that the only wisp of nine-tailed chakra left in the Temple of Fire seemed to be different from the one swallowed by the golem fragments. It's too violent. The monks sitting around the huge wooden fish looked dignified. As they chanted sutras, the huge wooden fish in the center kept trembling, as if roaring silently. At the same time, boundless malicious silence permeated the courtyard. The monk closest to Muyu was affected, and his eyes began to be filled with frenzied crimson. Soon, two ninja monks couldn't control their boiling hostility, and got up to fight the surrounding monks. Fortunately, Orochimaru made a timely move so that it would not lead to a catastrophe. This scene made Uchiha Yuan, who was on the sidelines, shake his head secretly. At the beginning, when the golem fragments were used to devour the Nine Tails chakra, the latter was like a good baby who could be kneaded by others, and had no ability to resist the fragments of the foreigner golem. But the current situation is getting worse. Shocking cracks appeared in the shell of the huge wooden fish, and an orange miniature fox jumped out of it, twisting its body violently and grinning at the surroundings. The chanting monks seemed to have been hit by an invisible hammer suddenly, their eyes were red and they attacked each other. This time, Orochimaru stood on the sidelines instead. The ninja monk and the horse had never experienced such a chaotic battle. He yelled at the ninja monk not to stop chanting scriptures no matter what, but more and more monks couldn't hold on. Surprised by his companions, influenced by the Nine Tails chakra, the defense created by reciting scriptures is like a blank sheet of paper, easily stained with blood. A hostility was brewing in Hima's chest at the same time. Don't be influenced. Kazuma, bring up the Jinchuriki you have prepared. Orochimaru's tone was calm. I understand, Lord Orochimaru. Regarding the tragedies around him, Kazuma was powerless and could only follow the instructions of Orochimaru. He turned and shouted towards the outside of the courtyard. Kudo, come here. No matter what happens, you just follow my orders, no. Master Orochimaru's orders are fine. Responding to Kazuma's call was a young ninja monk about Uchiha Yuan's age. He clasped his hands together, a young but respected face of compassion. The screams and blood around him seemed like an illusion to him. He walked up to the huge wooden fish and met the miniature fox's eyes, only a hint of greed flashed deep in his eyes. At this moment, the ninja monk who had gone mad earlier suddenly stood there like a wooden sculpture. Affected by the Nine Tails chakra, their spiritual power has long been exhausted, leaving only an empty shell. Surrounded by more than a dozen corpses, Chiriki Kongda, a reserve soldier, looked calm. Obviously, this ninja monk named Kongdu is much stronger than the ninja monk who recites scriptures. Just sealing a wisp of nine-tailed chakra is so dangerous, and sealing a tailed beast is simply a fantasy. Kurama Zion lamented that not long ago she had experienced the Night of the Nine Tails, and everything in front of her eyes was a reenactment of the tragic scene of that day. This is just the beginning, Mr. Oshimaru hasn't made a move yet. Midori Anko watched with relish, and the blood and death made her even more excited. Uchiha Yuan touched his nose quietly. The scene in front of him was indeed an eye-opener. Thanks to the fragments of the golem had already been fed, there was no response to the remaining wisp of Nine Tails chakra. Otherwise, the Nine Tails chakra, who was affected by the fragments of the golem, was stunned, which would definitely attract the suspicion of Orochimaru and Kazuma. To prevent exposure, Uchiha Yuan felt that he had to be more cautious. Just as he was thinking about how to hide the fragments of the golem, his left arm was firmly held. Turning his head to look, he happened to meet Hinata Ling's pure and harmless white eyes. Yuan-kun is a man. He will protect girls at this time, right? Uchiha Fuchi's eyes drifted down. Hyuga Ling's turbulent waves obstructed his vision. This ninja of the Hyuga family actually hid half of his body behind his back. Thinking of the terrible situation in front of him, it was obvious that he was treating himself as a human shield. I'm just an ordinary ninja. I'm not married yet, let alone have a daughter. Ling, you don't have to treat me like this. Just when Uchihabuchi was about to get rid of Hyuga Ling, his right arm was entangled by another pair of cold and greasy arms. Ling is right, Mr. Yuan can be considered a man. Kurama Zion naturally hid half of his body behind Uchiha Fuchi. Anyway, it doesn't matter if you protect one more, right? Uchiha Fuchi had blue veins throbbing on his forehead. Just this wisp of Nine Tails chakra has instantly killed more than a dozen monks of the Temple of Fire. These two women, knowing the danger, still use themselves as human shields. It's too sinister and vicious. Then, Uchiha Fuchi dragged two burdens and stood behind Hongdu quietly. The little junior sister was concentrating on observing the sealing technique of the teacher Orochimaru, and didn't pay attention to her back at all. Uchiha Fuchi looked up at the sky as if nothing had happened. Kurama Zion looked around pretending to be looking at the scenery. Only Hinata Ling smiled peacefully the whole time. Just when the unscrupulous trio were persecuting the junior sisters in the class, the seal officially started. In the center of the courtyard, the corpses of more than a dozen monks from the Temple of Fire lay on the ground. Orochimaru is calmly examining the candidate Jinchuriki Kongta, whose physique is much worse than that of the Uzumaki clan, and he doesn't even have the qualifications to become an imitation Jinchuriki. Hima, the person you are looking for is not qualified enough. However, I will still complete the seal for you as agreed, and even teach you the sealing method. As for the rest, you need to deal with it yourself. In this regard, Heima can only accept it silently. Although the optional Jinchuriki Kongta focused on the mini-fox confrontation, he glanced at Orochimaru with a hint of disdain and malice. Orochimaru turned a deaf ear, and he ordered Kongta to take off his upper body clothes. Sealing technique 5 elements seal. With a burst of shouting, 5 chakras of different attributes quietly emerged at the fingertips. Not long ago, the mini-fox that instantly killed more than a dozen monks of the Temple of Fire had a premonition of danger, but it had already been taken into the hands of Orochimaru. The fanaticism in Renju Likong's eyes became more intense. If you want to become Renjuli, you must be firm in your will. Following Orochimaru's words to remind, the earthworm-shaped rune pattern flashed on Kongdu's abdomen. The Nine Tails chakra was pressed in by Orochimaru, and then the rune pattern was closed, and the seal between breaths was completed. Kongta, who transformed into a humanoid Chiriki, felt the changes in his body inconceivably. He was nervous and frightened, but the corners of his mouth still curled up uncontrollably. My state is very good, and infinite power is emerging from all over my body. Kongdo felt that he could smash the gate of the Temple of Fire with one punch. Even getting rid of the control of Heima and Orochimaru is easy. But before he could make a move, a pale hand pressed on the belly of the bucket again. 5 elements unraveling. The strength in his body was draining rapidly, and Kongdo wanted to resist and break free, using these powerful hands to find his own freedom. But when he lowered his head, he could only see 2 claws that had swelled several times their size after drying up, weakly grabbing towards the Konoha ninja beside him. His vision and eyelids became heavy at the same time. The last thing Kongta felt was his head hanging down weakly, and the air that could not be exhaled from his lungs. On the side, Uchiha Fuchi frowned, as if Nine Tails Jinchuriki had only a little distortion, and was ruthlessly obliterated by Orochimaru. In Uchiha Yuan's view, the sealing technique of teacher Orochimaru is very good, and maybe he can really get the solution to the ghoul sealing from him. Master Orochimaru, has the empty fight failed? Hima looked anxious. The changes in front of him were too sudden, and he was not prepared at all. This example of humanoid Chiriki failed completely, and Kongta couldn't carry Nine Tails chakra at all. You have seen the situation, I don't need to waste my words to explain. Orochimaru didn't care about sealing the drawn nine-tailed chakra into the wooden fish lightly. Maybe it's not the right time yet. I'll leave the sealing technique, the solution, and the nine tails chakra to you. You can figure out what to do next. Handing the wooden fish to Kazuma, Orochimaru turned and left. You guys, haven't you seen enough? Come with me, there are more important things waiting for us to do. Under the leadership of Uchiha Yuan, the Orochimaru team quickly followed. In the empty courtyard, only Heima stood there in a daze. Originally, he planned to make a deal with Kusakashi, but half of the nine tails chakra used for the deal was taken away, and the rest was not even enough to make nine tails Jinchuriki. Because of this failed action, most of the ninja monks who were in the same camp as him were killed or injured. Of course Kazuma knows that someone is plotting against him behind the scenes, but he doesn't even know any extra information except that the other party is interested in nine tails chakra. On the mountain road, Uchiha Yuan followed behind Orochimaru, walking slowly. Orochimaru was not hit by this failure, but was in a good mood. Teacher, is it this mission to help the Temple of Fire? Midori Anzuki asked. No, this is just my personal research hobby. As for this mission, we just set off now to execute it. Uchiha Yuan sighed in his heart. Performing missions with Orochimaru is bound to be dangerous. Hyuga Ling and Kurama Zion also felt the same way. Then teacher, what is our task this time? Midori Anzuki asked excitedly. Go to the country of the sea and seal Sanwei Isofu. Seal the three tails. The people in Orochimaru's class looked like they had seen a ghost. The Knight of the Nine Tails is still in sight. In order to seal the nine-tailed demon fox, Konoha even lost the lives of the fourth Hokage and Jinchuriki. Now, Konoha actually wants to take the initiative to seal Sano Isofu of the Sea Kingdom. He's going to die. Kurama Zion had a mournful face and a depressed tone, while Hyuga Ryo's expression was equally embarrassing. It is inevitable for ninjas to make sacrifices for the mission. Haven't you guys made up your mind yet? Orochimaru was very satisfied with the fear of the three. It is precisely because of the fear of death that people will strive to chase a glimmer of life in critical times, and will relentlessly pursue eternal life. Except for the red beans, the remaining three students are very suitable for Dashawan. However, you don't need to worry so much. We will cooperate with Anbu to carry out the mission. You just need to follow my instructions when the time comes. Teacher, don't I remember that Sanwei has been missing for a long time? Why did he suddenly appear? Midori Anko asked. The task of sealing Sanwei made her smell an exciting smell of blood. Orochimaru thought for a while before answering Hongdu's question about Sanwei. No, according to the information I got, this time, Sanwei suddenly appeared in the Kingdom of the Sea. I suspect that Sanwei died in the last Ninja World War and has not completed his rebirth until now. If the mission is successful, the weakened Kurigakure may not dare to do anything to us. Of course, Kurigakure will not just sit idly by. After all, when the first generation of Hokage sent the tailed beasts to the Senju Pillar, they handed over the three-tailed and six-tailed beasts to Kurigakure for management. That's the trouble. Single quote. Uchiha Yuan murmured in his heart. Before the Third Ninja World War, there was almost no news about Mio Isofu in the ninja world. But Uchiha Fuchi knew that Sanwei Isofu had been sealed on the body of the Konoha ninja Nohara Rin, and that was a plan deliberately prepared by the old Madara to open Obito's eyes. Could it be that Wuin was not successfully recovered in the follow-up? And Sanwei Isofu was reborn on an island in the country of the sea. Uchiha Yuan estimated the time, and he felt that this possibility was very high. Right now, Konoha has just experienced the Nine Tails Rebellion, losing two cage-level powerhouses and many Jonin at once, and the war with Yunyin and Yanyin is not completely over yet. If you intervene in the incident of sealing Sanwei Isofu at this time, it will undoubtedly intensify the conflict with Wuin village. At that time, Konoha will restart the third-line battle in the most difficult period of ninja war, and even Sandyin, who has become an ally, may betray at any time. But it has to be admitted that once Sanwei Isofu is successfully sealed, it will definitely cause serious damage to Wuin village. Back then, the first generation of Hokage Senju Hashirama captured all the tailed beasts except for one of the seven tails. Sanwei and Luwei, who were handed over to Kurigakure, would naturally be considered by the other party to be their property. After so many years, the 5 major ninja villages, including Kurigakure, have long been accustomed to using tailed beasts as deterrent weapons. With the sudden loss of Sanwei, Kurigakure's strength will inevitably be weakened by the reply. Konoha can dispatch ninjas to carry out the task of sealing Sanwei, which is a tightrope walk. Who knows that Kurigakure will suffer this dull loss honestly, or roll up his sleeves and fight with you Konoha to the end. However, this is also a helpless move for Konoha. If the hidden village is to be passed on in the troubled times, it must be strong. Otherwise, like Sha Yin, who wants to fight with you for a while, and be your ally for a while, you may not get much benefit, making yourself like a clown. As for Kaoyan village, which fanned the flames every day and made troubles everywhere. With his strength, the 5 great powers are not even willing to look directly at him. Teacher, this mission is very dangerous. After a long silence, Uchiha Fuchi took up Orochimaru's words. But teacher, we only have the strength of Chunin, it should be very difficult to intervene in this mission. Hyuga Ling and Uchiha Yuan have similar ideas, this task is not for Chunin at all. From the corner of his eye, Orochimaru pressed his forehead and sighed. You guys, if I have half the courage of Hongdu, I will be satisfied. But, teacher, this mission is really dangerous, right? The other party is Kurigakure and Tailed Beast. Our strength is not enough at all. Unless we master some new ninjutsu during this period of time. Midori Anko looked over pitifully, she was hot-blooded and reckless, but not stupid. In the Night of the 9 Tails, only Jonin can intervene in the battle with the Tailed Beast. As for sealing the 3 tails, there will be no difference. You can take on tasks that exceed your strength, but your strength must keep up. These are naturally to be taught, but after such a long time, I still need to investigate how far you have grown. Orochimaru said slowly. He was relieved by Hongdu's transformation, but it was sad for the remaining 3. Okay, the teacher is going to consider our special teaching after inspecting our practice. Pommel Zion applauded, as expected of teacher Orochimaru. Times 3. At this point, Uchiha Yuan knew that he couldn't refuse, so he took the initiative to join in. In fact, Uchiha Yuan was still a little worried that Orochimaru would notice his changes. After all, he had only integrated the gene of the golem of the heretics not long ago. As for the benefits obtained from the golem fragments, Orochimaru did not take care of a few disciples during the 3 wars. Uchiha Fuchi pondered, as long as he performed well, teacher Orochimaru might not see any clues. Then take advantage of this time to conduct a trial first. Zion, you are already very ninja, let me be your opponent. Yuan Jun, Ling Jun, and Hongdu, the 3 of you fight in a melee, even if you have the mentality of killing each other, it doesn't matter. The one who stands at the end is the winner, and the loser will receive my special punishment. The rules of Orochimaru class are supposed to be like this, and it is meaningless to try without the mentality of killing opponents. However, Uchiha Fuchi was not too worried. With Orochimaru, a cage-level powerhouse present, the worst result would be a serious injury. As for the fact that the shot was not serious enough to cause death, it would be a slap in the face of Dashawan. Right now, Orochimaru is still a Konoha ninja, and he hasn't reached the point where he has organized a chicken-eating game frantically. With Orochimaru's seal splitting out of Daoying's avatar and heading towards Kurama Zion, the trial that belongs to Orochimaru's class officially began. Because he had to meet up with Konoha Onbi to avoid delaying the task time, the whole trial was carried out on the road. The contest between Kurama Zion and Orochi Marukage's clone is quite ordinary. In addition to dismantling each other with illusion, the 2 occasionally use physical skills to directly face each other. During the whole process, Orochimaru's shadow clone suppressed the ninja Kurama Zion. On the contrary, the battle group between Uchiha Yuan, Hyuga Ryo and Midori Anko is quite fierce. Needless to say, Uchiha Fuchi, as students of Orochimaru class, Hinata Ryo and Midori Anko are much more mature than ninjas of the same age. The 3 of them hardly thought about the priority of companions or tasks. After all, in the process of carrying out the task, the weak can't even protect their own safety, so what are the tasks and companions? That's the fool who went to die. That's why Hinata Ryo and Midori Anko are very serious about every trial. This made Uchiha Yuan also have to be serious. Chapter 11. This trial is different from the previous ones. The teacher Orochimaru puts special emphasis on punishment, which makes Uchiha Fuchi particularly concerned. You must know that except for Midori Anzu, all of Orochimaru's classes are blood-following ninjas. I am even more special, directly fused with the gene of the golem of the heretics. Uchiha Fuchi didn't want to be forced to collect body tissue for experimentation by the teacher Orochimaru on the grounds that the trial failed. Fortunately, Uchiha Fuchi is more proficient in the tricks of the three-person trial than Hinata Ling and Midori Anko. According to the experience of previous trials, Uchiha Fuchi knew very well that Hyuga Ryo was the strongest of the three with his white eyes, blood following the boundary. And the reckless Red Bean is fierce in offense and average in defense, and is often the first one to be eliminated. This time, Uchiha Yuan followed the same pattern and circled between the two of them. When Hinata Ryo had the upper hand, he helped Hongdu defuse Hinata Ryo's soft fist attack. When the two women joined forces to besiege him, Uchiha Yuan was even more calm and deliberately showed weakness and joined forces. Finally, half a day later, the trial ended with Uchiha Yuan standing panting to the end. As for the other side, Kurama Zion was defeated by Orochimaru's shadow avatar early on. For this result, Orochimaru was not surprised. Okay, the punishment will be discussed after the mission is over. You need to take a boat to get to the Kingdom of the Sea. During this time, I will give you a special lesson. At the end of the trial, some people were happy and some were worried. Midori Anko and Hinata Ryo stared at Uchiha Fuchi's back in a grieved manner. This is already the 7th time they have been defeated by Uchiha Fuchi, and the latter still looks calm, seemingly ignorant of the seriousness of the matter. The two girls clenched their fists tightly, vowing in their hearts that they would definitely defeat Uchiha Yuan in the near future, and then severely trample on this Uchiha's self-esteem. Although the Kingdom of the Sea is a country built of many islands like the Kingdom of Water, this archipelagic country does not have a ninja village, and it also lacks ninjas who perform long-term guard tasks. Before the Third Ninja World War, the daimyo of the sea country will rent ninjas from the neighboring water country to consolidate domestic rule. However, with the continuation of the rule of Blood Mist Village and Wuin Village of the country of water, the ninjas rented by the country of sea are no longer as easy to control as usual. Therefore, the daimyo of the sea country chose to cooperate with Konoha Hidden Village in the country of fire, and handed over some tasks to the Konoha ninja to complete. The news of Sano Isofu's reappearance was brought back to the village by the Konoha ninja who performed the mission in the country of the sea. In a word, between Konoha and Kurigakure, who are not dealt with at all, the situation in the country of the sea is also not peaceful. On the bumpy boat, Orochimaru took the time to introduce the situation of the sea country to the four people. At the beginning of World War III, he lurked in the sea country to develop espionage forces, and now he has made some achievements. So, our intelligence for this mission is no worse than that of Wuin Village, so don't underestimate the power I have been operating in the sea country for so many years, teacher. Uchiha Fuchi nodded. What Orochimaru said is true, there are several experimental bases in the country of Kakai. Teacher, didn't you teach especially? Or is it only the winners who have this treatment? Midori Red Bean raised her hand and asked. Orochimaru spoke calmly. No, in order to be able to see my lovely students after the task, I will give each of you special guidance as scheduled. But before that, I have already completed your strength assessment. Don't you want to hear it? In my opinion, a ninja who does not seek to change and improve is not qualified. Midori Anko glanced at Uchiha Fuchi. The bulging corners of her mouth indicated that she was quite depressed at the moment. He is obviously an ordinary Uchiha, but he has never won. On the contrary, Hinata Ryo looked at Uchiha Fuchi with all his thoughts, recalling the details of the trial. She also couldn't let go. Rarely, Hyuga Ryo raised his hand. Teacher, please don't waste your and our time. Hearing this, Midori Anko and Kurama Zion's expression froze at the same time. Orochimaru clapped his hands and smiled. Let's start with you, Zion. The blood succession illusion art inherited from the Kurama family is indeed powerful. If I hadn't been familiar with it, I would have wasted a lot of time dispelling the illusion when I first saw it. Then during this time, can you ensure that under the condition of your own safety, kill me? Kurama Zion showed a thoughtful expression. Orochimaru told her the strength of Shueiji illusion, but also warned her about its weakness. She relies too much on illusions and lacks the means to fight the enemy. When performing tasks in a small team, her teammates can make up for this deficiency. But once he acts alone, this defect will be infinitely magnified. The worst case is if you are facing a ninja like Orochimaru who is not afraid of illusion. There is no way for Zion on the pommel horse to face defeat. Seeing the students realize something, Orochimaru continued. I have no objection to you continuing your studies in the field of illusion. Maybe after you fully develop your blood inheritance limit, this defect will be insignificant. So, before that, Zion, you should strengthen your training in shuriken and even physical training. After evaluating Kurama Zion, Orochimaru turned his head. As for Hongdu and Ling Kun, let me talk about the two of you together. In my opinion, the two of you are two extremes of recklessness and prudence. Ling Kun, you are too steady, but you missed the chance of winning because you didn't dare to take risks. As for Hongdu, your taijutsu ninjutsu is the best among the three. The most skilled, there is no doubt about it. But have you ever considered why you failed? For Hinata Ryo, Orochimaru directly pointed out the problem, but Midori Anko, Orochimaru wanted to hear the reckless student talk about his shortcomings. Teacher, you said that my taijutsu and ninjutsu are the strongest. Could it be that I wasted too much chakra during the battle? Otherwise, why would Uchiha Yuan stand at the end? Midori Anko rubbed her chin, and gave Orochimaru an answer that she didn't want to hear at all. The action of holding the forehead +1. Forget it, it may not be bad for you to suffer a few more times. Now I will comment on Mr. Yuan. When looking at Uchiha Fuchi, Orochimaru narrowed his long and narrow eyes, and his whole body became fierce. This made Uchiha Fuchi subconsciously vigilant. The teacher is a real cage-level powerhouse. If he had discovered his ability to fuse cells very early on, and even followed him quietly from the night of the Nine Tails night. Uchiha Hitomi feels that if this is the case, the current self may already be on the experimental bench. Just when he was thinking about these questions in a daze, Orochimaru exclaimed. So, you all understand Yuan-jun's ability now. Uchiha Fuchi looked around, only to see Hinata Ling's eyes were dull, and his fingers were trembling uncontrollably. Midori Anko crossed her arms, her eyes filled with fear and fear. As for the special ninja pommel horse Zion, it was not much better, her slightly swaying calf betrayed the fear she tried her best to resist. Uchiha Yuan blinked his eyes and looked at Orochimaru in confusion. He knew that the murderous aura of this cage-level powerhouse was so terrifying that even a ninja of the Jonin level could not escape the shock. But just now I didn't notice it at all, and up to now I still look calm and composed. Uchiha Yuan couldn't control the length and sensitivity of his reflex arc, which was a bit embarrassing. I was overwhelmed by Orochimaru. With hindsight, I feel that Uchiha Yuan understands the current situation. Orochimaru deliberately released a murderous temptation, but the one closest to him didn't even react. Knowing this was the case, Uchiha Yuan knew that he could show corresponding fear and panic. But it was too late to make amends now. He struggled to suppress the crazy urge to flee the scene in his heart. Teacher, what exactly is Yuan-jun's ability? Kurama Zion, who was the first to come to his senses, asked with trembling lips, and even Rixiong Ling looked over with a puzzled expression. Orochimaru said slowly, in the face of my fierce murderous intent, even those senior Jonin will inevitably be affected, only you, Yuan-jun. Your comprehensive strength, in my opinion, is not as good as Ling-jun and Hongdu, but in contrast, your soul strength far surpasses them. It is rare to hear praise for myself from my teacher Dashimaru. Uchiha Yuan was surprised on the surface, but he was extremely vigilant in his heart. This is not the first time he has heard of the concept of soul strength. Later, Orochimaru, who defected from Konoha, was reincarnated again and again, causing his own soul to become weak. Not to mention the fairy art that bears the oral tradition of the White Snake Immortal, even Uchiha Itachi's basic illusion can't be solved. But such a thing as a strong soul, even Uchiha Yuan himself is not clear about it. Orochimaru seems to have not discovered the ability of self-phagocytosis and fusion that he worked so hard to hide. But how did Orochimaru realize the strength of the soul that he didn't even pay attention to? Yuanjin, the daily tasks you perform are mainly to help me manage the laboratory and assist in research. But do you know, although this work is simple, it is quite cumbersome. Even Zion, who is used to these things, will inevitably make omissions when reporting research data in the past, but you haven't even made a single mistake. Of course, you don't even know this information yourself. I'm afraid you always think that the Orochimaru squad can always complete the task perfectly. That's what you demand of yourself. Since then, I have guessed that your soul strength is extraordinary, and the verification was not officially completed until today. Orochimaru said meaningfully. Only he who is in charge of the research progress will care about those details. Teacher, is this really the case? Uchiha Yuan had an unbelievable expression, and he kept slandering in his heart. I'm afraid the trial that this crazy batch of snakes put forward before is to test their own preparations. Single quote. Of course, a tough and powerful soul is not a bad thing for a ninja. Mr. Yuan, you are the key to the success of this mission. Wait for me in the room. After instructing the three of them to practice, I will teach you the techniques you have prepared for this mission. The lights are like beans, and Uchiha Fuchi sits cross-legged in the bumpy boat. He has always tried his best to hide himself, hoping to improve his strength and change the fate of Uchiha by fusing the golem cells of the outside world. It's only now that I see the light of day after painstaking efforts. But I didn't expect to be noticed by Orochimaru in a blink of an eye. This makes Uchiha Yuan quite painful. What is going on with a strong soul? Genetic, or is it the awakening of its own mutation? After devouring the fusion golem gene, the soul will definitely gain. But that point of gain is not enough to make Orochimaru attach so much importance to his own soul strength. Recalling his life in the ninja world, his father Uchiha Toyama and his mother Uchiha Mizu died in World War III. Uchiha Yuan, who has no blood relatives or even many friends, has been living a regular life. In the eyes of the tribe, he is a member of countless ordinary Uchihas. It stands to reason that it is impossible to have such a powerful soul. Could it be time travel? The experience of being a human in 2 lifetimes made his soul strength far surpass that of a ninja. Just when Uchiha Fuchi had guessed, Orochimaru silently emerged from the shadows. Good evening, Mr. Yuan, I'm here to give you a special ninjutsu guide. Good evening, teacher. Uchiha Fuchi sat down respectfully. Not every ninja masters most of Konoha's ninjutsu like Orochimaru, and not many ninjas will selflessly teach ninjutsu to the students in the class. Because in the ninja system, the ninjutsu mastered is the ninja's own intelligence. And intelligence is the lifeline of ninjas. But Orochimaru is completely different. Having mastered many ninjutsu, he is not afraid of being targeted at all, so he teaches his students, highlighting one to teach them all. A dark green scroll with secret characters written on it was handed over to him. Spiritualization technique. Yuan Jun, you need to understand this technique before formally practicing it. If you learn this ninjutsu, you can easily separate your soul from your body, travel regardless of distance, and even manipulate the opponent's body to invade the spiritual world. It is even more convenient for intelligence work. However, this process requires a ninja to protect your body all the way. As for the soul, there is no need to worry about it. Ordinary ninjutsu and taijutsu cannot harm you, but you have to be careful of those ninjas who are good at sealing. Once there is no nourishment of physical energy for a long time, the soul will also dry up. After Orochimaru finished speaking in one breath, Uchiha Yuan asked ignorantly. Teacher, is this the spiritual technique invented by the second Hokage? It is said that only Tsunade-sama's boyfriend in Konoha has learned this ninjutsu. Under the sluggish expression, it was Uchiha Yuan's powerless complaints. There is also the art of spiritualization in the massive secrets left by the old bald head. Even if Orochimaru doesn't teach it, he will learn this S-level ninjutsu sooner or later. HMPH, it's true that only Kato Duan was lucky enough to learn the art of spiritualization, but his soul is not very powerful, and he can't exert its power at all. It's you, if time permits, as long as you spend a year and a half practicing this ninjutsu, it will not be a problem to surpass Senior Jonin. But the current situation does not allow it. You must be prepared to master this ninjutsu in a short period of time. As long as it can interfere with the tail beast's actions, that's enough. Speaking of ninjutsu, Orochimaru has become much more talkative. But he didn't know that at this moment, almost alpacas roared past Uchiha Fuchi's heart, leaving a mess of grass on the ground. Look, is this a human language? Interfere with the tailed beast. Is that enough? Are you kidding? If the tailed beasts were so easy to seal, there would be no need for the god of ninja Senju Hashirama to run around and catch them one by one. Uchiha Fuchi, is just an ordinary Konoha ninja, and I can't take on this big task at all. Teacher, I'm afraid. The ninjutsu scroll handed back was ignored by Orochimaru, and Crazy Snake said meaningfully. Yuanjin, although you have been my student for a long time, I don't think I really understand you. But I want to remind you. I believe you already know the Knight of the Nine Tails, and you should also know that because of this riot, the relationship between the village and the Uchiha clan is extremely stiff. But I want to remind you that the feats you have built for Konoha can belong to you or Uchiha. There were threats and mentions in Orochimaru's words, and Uchiha Hitomi even wondered if this Crazy Snake had temporarily changed his personality. Thinking of learning the spiritualization art to deal with tailed beasts, he felt like retreating. Whoever wants to do something that looks like death at a glance, do it. I, Uchiha Yuan, am definitely not a fool. Of course, I can guarantee this mission, you can go back alive. Not only that, after the task is completed, you can even ask Konoha or me to learn a ninjutsu, no matter which kind of forbidden technique is within the scope of my promise. The icy vertical pupils opened, and Orochimaru was very tempting. It is our duty to dedicate ourselves to the will of fire. Single quote. Uchiha Yuan raised his hand, with a hesitant expression. But in his heart, he has been thinking about the ghoul seal and the corresponding solution for a long time. Uchiha Fuchi quickly assessed his options. In the eyes of the Konoha executives who initiated this mission, there is no ninja who can master the art of spiritualization in a short time. Orochimaru judged that with the current strength of his own soul, even if he could not exert the power of the spirit transformation technique, it would still be enough to shake the soul of Mio Isofu. Combining these two conditions, Uchiha Fuchi is sure that the high-level leaders of the three-tailed seal mission will never bet on themselves the key to victory or defeat, which is too unsteady. In other words, mastering the art of spiritualization can only be a backup trick, not within the scope of the mainstream plan at all. This is why Orochimaru dared to promise to bring Uchiha Yuan back alive. Not only that, Uchiha Yuan considers the long term. After merging the gene of the heretic golem, his own learning aptitude can be called abnormal, even the S-level, spiritualization technique, can be mastered at a frightening speed. Considering learning the spiritualization technique through the task, you don't have to worry about being exposed when using it in front of Konoha ninja in the future. Not to mention the forbidden technique that Orochimaru promised to choose. Compared with the risk of facing the tail beast, Uchiha Yuan is more inclined to accept the benefits of the mission. In fact, deep down, Uchiha Buchi is more adventurous than Kurama Zion and Hinata Ryo. This is also the reason why he dared to cut off his beard and bring soil in the Knight of Nine Tails. Teacher, I have considered it and am willing to accept this mission. Orochimaru is very satisfied with the temporary change of mind of the students. In his mind, only obedient students are worth cultivating. Okay, while you are in the kingdom of the sea, you should first understand the content recorded on the scroll. As for further practice, I will try my best to give advice. After telling the disciples to familiarize themselves with the content on the scroll, Orochimaru left alone. The invisible pressure dissipated, and Uchiha Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at the scroll in a dignified manner, unable to calm down for a long time. The spiritualization technique delivered by Orochimaru is similar to the version left by the old Frecklehead, and there is an additional secret technique related to the soul. As expected of Mr. Orochimaru, he is always at the forefront in the development of ninjutsu. Single quote. Uchiha Yuan read it like a treasure. In fact, after merging the golem gene, Uchiha Yuan completely underestimated his own learning ability. At the beginning, Water Dungeon Water Breaking Wave, and Dark Night Walking Art, were just a quick pass of the ninjutsu practice in the mind and mastered it. Right now, Uchiha Yuan has to read the scroll of spiritualization technique more carefully. Soon, the body seemed to be emptied, and a tidal wave of tiredness hit him. Unknowingly, Uchiha Fuchi had mastered the spiritualization technique. He felt an odd dislocation in his body, the lighter parts of him seeming to float. His own senses have also become extremely sharp, and Uchiha Fuchi can actually feel a huge cold chakra on the deck, which is Orochimaru. In different rooms, Midori Anko's chakra is manic, Hinata Ryo's chakra is deep and introverted, and Kurama Zion's chakra is warm and peaceful. This is an experience that I have never had before. Uchiha Yuan turned his head and saw himself sitting upright on the bed, and his hazy body floating in the air. Before he knew it, he had mastered the spiritualization technique. This high-speed learning ability is the improvement of my golem gene, but it's too fast. Could it be that the golem of the outer way is the source of all chakras to achieve this effect? Single quote. Uchiha Yuan pondered calmly. The various magical effects of the spiritualization technique are engraved in the soul like the instinct of the body. Uchiha Fuchi can easily analyze the sensed chakra with the soul body, and even teleport to the position corresponding to the chakra. It is no exaggeration to say that Uchiha Yuan felt that he could easily control the body of his teacher Orochimaru without any resistance. This is the secret technique attached to the spiritualization technique, possessing spirits. After casting the spiritualization art, enchantment, you can easily invade the other party's spiritual world, rely on the absolute strength of the soul to torture information or completely destroy the other party's spiritual world. In addition, there is also the spiritualization technique spirit shaking. The silent roar from the soul body triggers the resonance and shock of the enemy's soul, causing the surrounding living creatures to lose consciousness for a short time. Uchiha Yuan didn't intend to try these two secret techniques. He didn't want to reveal the fact that he had already mastered the technique of spiritualization. Before dawn, he concentrated on recalling the extra secret technique on the scroll given by Orochimaru, spiritualization technique Chaosling. According to the records of the scroll, the soul and body of living creatures can coexist only by virtue of the contract relationship. Once the contract is unsealed on the ninja who has no external contract, then his body and soul will be separated for a short time. And the spiritualization technique Chaotic Spirit can draw these free souls into the soul vortex created by the caster, and then crush them, completely killing the enemy from the soul level. It is a rare AoE skill in soul secret art. Thinking carefully about the spiritualization technique, the corners of Uchiha Yuan's mouth curled up. In addition to the three secret techniques attached to the spiritualization technique, I also mastered the contract unsealed during the learning process. Sealing technique is a very interesting knowledge, such as contract seal, 5-element seal, evil dispelling seal, etc. According to the reverse execution of the sealing technique, it is the corresponding way to unseal. Uchiha Yuan knows that mastering the unseal of the contract is tantamount to learning the seal of the contract. But only these are not enough. Single quote. Uchiha Yuan has always been thinking about the half of Yin Nine Tails in the Death Mask. But the related sealing technique, ghoul sealing, he only knows that it comes from the Vortex clan with strong life force and good at sealing technique. As for whether the ghoul seal can be lifted by performing the opposite spell like the contract seal, it is still unknown. Fortunately, the degraded version of Baiju can make up for the living tribute needed when the ghoul is sealed off. And after mastering the spirit transformation, Uchiha Yuan also has a way to deal with the soul of Namikaze Minato who is entangled with Yin Kyuubi. Uchiha Yuan knew that what was lacking right now was the ghoul sealing technique and the lifting technique. It just so happens that Orochimaru, the teacher of the sealing technique, knows it. As for the solution idea, Uchiha Fuchi understands it, but he can try it with the captured Baiju. So, don't let this opportunity go to waste. After simply catching up on sleep, after eating the simple breakfast on board, Uchiha Fuchi knocked on the door of Orochimaru's room. "Oh, it's Mr. Yuan, what's the matter with looking for me so early?" Orochimaru seems to be in good spirits. A scientific research madman like him may have found a way of life that does not require sleep and rest. "Teacher, I've finished reading the scroll. Before the formal study, I want to learn more about the sealing technique." Regarding the student's request, Orochimaru sighed while holding his forehead. "My students are good everywhere, but why are all of them so cowardly? Are they all influenced by themselves?" Orochimaru doubted himself, and called Uchiha Yuan to come in. He sighed in his heart, "No way, who made them his students?" Uchiha Fuchi got straight to the point. Right now, teacher Orochimaru needs him to learn the forbidden art, presumably he will not refuse this small request. What's more, the sealing technique is the natural enemy of the spiritualization technique. Even for this mission, Uchiha Yuan thinks it is necessary to know in advance. This is to plan for a rainy day, which is human nature. Orochimaru supported his forehead, his calm voice could not hear the ups and downs of emotion. Well, all of you are greedy for life and afraid of death. It seems that it is mostly my teacher's problem. Seeing that Orochimaru didn't refuse immediately, Uchiha Fuchi said happily. No, teacher, you are the most competent. Being greedy for life and fearing death is not a bad habit. Even a ninja is qualified to consider tasks and sacrifices on the premise of saving his own life, isn't it? Orochimaru looked helpless. Even if what you said makes sense, Mr. Yuan. It happens that the roughness of the boat is not suitable for practicing the spirit transformation technique. During the time when you arrive at Strange Island, let me explain the sealing technique to you first. Seeing Orochimaru finally nodded, Uchiha Fuchi let out a long sigh of relief. Whether it is to understand the disadvantages of the spiritualization technique, or to plan the half of the yin nine tails, the sealing technique is a threshold that cannot be jumped out. Before the ninjas of the Uzumaki family who were good at sealing techniques walked in the ninja world, there were already legends of sealing techniques in the world. Therefore, the source of the sealing technique can no longer be studied accurately. However, the sealing technique that Konoha is good at comes from the Uzumaki clan. Its last patriarch, Uzumaki Ashina, is regarded as the ancestor of Konoha's sealing technique. The legacy he left was carried forward by Uzumaki Mito and Uzumaki Kushina. Quote. Orochimaru paused at this point, danger brewing in the narrow vertical pupils. If it wasn't for that guy Kushina Uzumaki who sealed the Kyuubi in his body, Minato Namikaze would not be qualified to compete with me for the 4th Hokage. Uchiha Fudoshi didn't talk to him sensibly and listened patiently. Fortunately, Orochimaru quickly realized that he had interrupted and returned to the story in time. Of course, not every ninja is qualified to learn the Uzumaki clan's sealing technique, except for the sealing techniques like King Kong Blockade, Myojin Gate, and Sealing Seal, which require special blood. Sixiong Seal, Contract Seal, 8 Trigram Seal, and Dead Ghost Seal. Ordinary ninjas spend a lot of time practicing to master one of the sealing techniques. Among them, the 4-element seal and the 8-diagram seal are mostly used to deal with monsters with huge chakras such as tailed beasts and evil things. As for you, Mr. Yuan, after you can successfully perform the spiritualization technique, the most important thing you need to care about among all the sealing techniques is the contract, seal, and ghoul seal. Quote. Hearing this, Uchiha Yuan said thoughtfully, Teacher, I do know that the contract seal can forcibly dispel the spiritualization technique, but what is the ghoul sealing technique? Orochimaru's expression was vainly cold, his pale face leaned forward, and his long blue tongue licked his lips. That is a technique that can pull your soul into the belly of the god of death, and suffer eternal torture. Rarely, the teacher Orochimaru showed his beauty, and Uchiha Hitomi felt that he was in a good mood, so he continued to ask. Could it be that the Uzumaki clan's ability is great enough to conclude a contract with ghosts and gods? Then why did they perish? Ghosts and gods. You were right in saying that. Signing a contract with the god of death, in exchange for the opportunity to seal the opponent's soul at the cost of the soul, is a life-threatening sealing technique. As for the demise of the Whirlpool family, perhaps only my teacher knows I know the real reason. Hearing this, Uchiha Yuan was surprised, and he continued to ask after a while. If the teacher is hit by the sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan, how will he survive? Hearing this, Orochimaru laughed. You guy, all sealing techniques have countermeasures. Apart from the necessary sealing key, the easiest way is to perform the technique in reverse to release it. Of course, if your chakra is strong enough, you can break free violently when facing the sealing technique. However, the probability of success of this method is very low, and a powerful tailed beast will be exhausted by ninjas, let alone talk about a normal ninja. Orochimaru didn't specifically answer the solution of ghoul seal, which disappointed Uchiha Yuan. Perhaps, it will take time for his teacher to study the solution to seal the ghouls. At this moment, Orochimaru turned his head to look at the bustling port outside the window. The boat was already very close to the pier. The conversation had to end here. After simply changing his appearance and changing into casual clothes, Uchiha Fuchi and his party disembarked. Strange Island Port is full of people coming and going, and it is very lively. It is difficult to identify the intelligence personnel of Wuin village who were mixed in it. Uchiha Yuan and the other 5 could only pretend to be ordinary tourists, walking around and listening. Fortunately, during this period, many local guides took the initiative to strike up a conversation. After the screening by Dashawan, the group of people walked to the deep mountains in the center of the island. On the mountain road, after making sure that there was no one around, the tour guide bowed down. Master Orochimaru, Danzo-sama has arrived, and I invite you to discuss matters in the forest villa. Orochimaru, who was turning his head to look around the scenery, said lightly. Lead the way. Uchiha Fuchi's heart moved. When he heard that a high-level Konoha would personally preside over this mission, he guessed that Danzo would come in person. This, darkness of the ninja world, was very active when the third Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi was in power, and he specialized in helping the former with some shady matters. It was also one of the culprits who later destroyed the Uchiha clan. No way, do we actually have to cooperate with the roots to complete the task? Hyuga Ling, who was quiet along the way, suddenly spoke, and the worry on her face quickly resonated with Kurama Zion. Danzo-sama's reputation of, teammates stand behind me, I live alone, has been widely circulated among Konoha ninjas. Midori Anzuki was stunned. Teacher, is Master Danzo's reputation really that bad? Orochimaru reminded the sentence, cautious words, and then led the crowd towards Linjian Villa. Half an hour later, Uchiha Fuchi and his party came to a deserted villa. It used to be a tourist villa for foreign tourists to rest, but with the development of Strange Island's port economy, the forest villa was also abandoned because it was too far from the sea. It happened to be favored by Konoha ninja as a base for operations in the country of the sea. Standing at the gate of the dilapidated villa, without waiting for the group to make any moves, 2 ninjas wearing animal masks appeared in front of them instantly. Please show your identification. Among them, the short, silver-haired ninja wearing a fox mask said vigilantly. With Orochimaru around, there would naturally be no problems with the identity verification of the group. After confirming the identity of the visitor, the short silver-haired Onbi's tone was also quite polite. Oshimaru-sama, Danzo-sama, please go over immediately. In this regard, Orochimaru was not surprised. You lead the way for me, and your companion arranges accommodation for my students. Hey, he is Kakashi, the rumored Sharingan hero. What Sharingan hero? It's cold-blooded Kakashi. It's really too much to attack the medical ninja in the class. The Onbi ninja led the way, and Midori Anzu and the 3 girls talked in a low voice. In this regard, Uchiha Yuan is not surprised. With short silver hair, anyone who is a ninja can easily recognize Kakashi. Kakashi appeared here, which means that not only Gen, but Anbu under the command of the 3rd Hokage also participated in this operation. Single quote. The higher-ups in the village attach great importance to sealing Sanway. It's no wonder, after all, after weakening Kurigakure, the rear can be guaranteed to be stable for a period of time. Single quote. Konoha is really precarious. Single quote. After a lot of thinking, Onbi has already arranged the residences of Midori Anko, Hyuga Ryo and Kurama Zion. The 3 women lived together in a hidden water curtain cave, just when Uchiha Yuan planned to leave with the 3 women. Darkness stopped him. There are other arrangements for your temporary residence, please follow me. When going out to perform tasks, Sanin is also qualified to dispatch and control Anbu. Uchiha Fuchi pondered. Orochimaru might have greeted Danzo a long time ago, and arranged a residence for himself, so that he could practice the spiritualization technique. This Anbu was just following orders. The atmosphere was dull along the way, and Uchiha Fuchi's thoughts spread out as the Onbi ninja jumped up and down in front of him. Orochimaru ordered himself to practice the spiritualization technique as a second-hand trick. I'm afraid he didn't intend to let himself intervene in the frontal conflict with Kurigakure prematurely. In other words, in the next few days, as long as you show the appearance of practicing the spiritualization technique, the progress of controlling it will not be exposed. Thinking of this, Uchiha Yuan began to quickly recall the process of practicing the spiritualization technique over and over again in his mind. In the next few days, not only Orochimaru, but even Danzo will be very concerned about his practice progress. In order to hide these experienced Konoha ninjas, Uchiha Fuchi must perfectly control the entire training process. Otherwise, once the information that he has mastered the art of spiritualization is exposed, who knows if Crazy Snake and Darkness of the ninja world will pursue it, or they will arrange even crazier tasks for themselves. This is a resting place specially prepared for you. It's not necessary, please don't walk around casually, just stay here and obey the summons. Anbu stopped in front of an underground cave, explained, and left instantly. Until then, Uchiha Fuchi relaxed and let out a long sigh of relief. Ninjas can live in hotels, soak in hot springs, and eat big meals when performing tasks. That is the treatment in peacetime more than 10 years later. In this chaotic world right now, it would be nice to have a shelter from the wind and rain to sleep. He didn't complain. He walked into the depths of the cave, and after cleaning and removing the bugs, he sat cross-legged on the stone couch. Right now, Uchiha Fuchi doesn't know how he will intervene in the task of sealing the three tails. Anyway, before Orochimaru conveys the arrangement, he only needs to show that he is practicing the spiritualization technique. Breathing evenly, Uchiha Yuan fell into deep thought. In fact, besides the half-yin nine-tails chakra, he is also interested in the three-tails chakra. After merging the golem gene, even if the golem fragments devoured a little bit of nine-tails chakra, the ability to synchronize to oneself has been slightly improved. Mio Isofu possesses water and wind attribute chakras, and even possesses the rare blood successor boundary ice escape, and the dense fog it sprays has a strong hallucinogenic effect. Once the fragments of the golem can swallow some of the three-tailed chakra, after synchronization, Uchiha Hitomi believes that the power of the water escape and illusion that he has mastered will be improved again. Water escape, water breaking wave, and dark night walk. This is one of the few combined instant killing ninjutsu besides the spiritualization technique. But the task of sealing the three tails must be dangerous. At that time, even if he appeared on the scene with a soul body that can be immune to most of the damage, Uchiha Yuan didn't know what he could do, so he could only wait and see the changes and follow the trend. Just as Uchiha Fuchi was contemplating the future calmly, the cave quietly became gloomy and cold. Opening his eyes, the pitch-black kunai blade crossed his neck in the corner of his vision. Without feeling any pain, Uchiha Yuan lifted his whole heart. It was the first time he encountered assassination, or threat, as he rarely performed tasks. For a while, Uchiha Yuan could only force himself to control his shortness of breath and calm down first. Are you from the Uchiha clan? Come with me. The stronghold of Konoha ninja was threatened by a surprise attack. Uchiha Fuchi's brain instantly became active. The opponent did not kill, and was even quite sure that he was a member of the Uchiha clan. Is it the family crest on the clothes? Wrong. For the task, I have already changed into an ordinary ninja costume. Is it Anbu who arranged for me to live? Only he may know my intelligence. What does this Anbu want to do? Is he Konoha's ninja, or is it the Kurigakure ninja who sneaked in after grasping the information? Does he want to get Sharingan from himself? While the mind was turning, Uchiha Fuchi had already completed the seal. It's just less than one breath, and the ninja responsible for the assassination didn't even have time to stop it. The most important thing is that Uchiha Fudoshi formed the seal of spiritualization technique. This S-level forbidden technique is extremely difficult to practice, but it is easy to form the seal. In the silent cave, Uchiha Yuan's soul has already floated out of the body, but the assassin's drowsy hand knife has not had time to fall. Assassin's chakra feels very familiar. Single quote. Everything around has an extremely subtle induction in the perception of the state of the soul. After quickly analyzing the assassin's chakra, Uchiha Hitomi discovered that there was another group of chakras identical to the assassin's at 12 o'clock. Shadow clone. Really stable. Single quote. At this time, the assassin realized that Uchiha Fuchi's spirit had gone out of his body. He was a seasoned ninja. Knowing that there was no hope of fighting, he released the shadow clone on the spot with a bang. After learning the information, the main body quickly evacuated without looking back. But in the quiet cave, Uchiha Yuan's soul has long since disappeared. Half a minute later, a ninja wearing the mask of Kurigakure Anbu walked into the cave. He muttered, the voice really belonged to Uchiha Yuan. The chakras of Konoha ninja around are very calm, they didn't notice this assassination, or were they warned in advance? Single quote. Now that he has occupied the assassin's body, Uchiha Yuan unceremoniously consulted the information in the opponent's mind. It is a pity that it is not known whether the memory of this Onbi member was banned, or Uchiha Hitomi did not master the skills of torture and reviewing memories. He came and went and only saw some pictures of Muya Yin village and the kingdom of the sea. Konoha's ninja. Was it arranged by Danzo? Single quote. In the cave, the assassin clenched his fists in vain, showing Uchiha Yuan's angry mood. Trying to calm himself down, Uchiha Yuan pondered the purpose of the assassin. Konoha's ninja works for Danzo, what the other party wants is Sharingan. Uchiha Fuchi knows that Danzo's right eye bandage is a Sharingan. Could it be that the eyesight of Danzo's right eye is so poor that it urgently needs to be replaced? Following this line of thought, Uchiha Yuan calculated calmly. Right now, the Konoha executives have a tense relationship with the Uchiha clan because of Nine-Tails Night. Facing the shrinking Uchiha clan, Danzo can't find a chance to make a move. Therefore, it is reasonable to choose yourself, a Uchiha who is alone. What's more, during the Third Ninja World War, Danzo's activities were held in the Land of Rain and the Land of Earth, and there was not much opportunity to expand the reserve of Sharingan. You must know that after the night of the Uchiha genocide, Danzo had the opportunity to gather a full arm of Sharingan. In this way, in the face of Uchiha Yuan who is alone, Danzo has to make a move under the situation of insufficient information. Therefore, the assassin did not directly kill Uchiha Yuan, and even made a nonsense statement just to confirm the information of Sharingan. But what he didn't expect was that Uchiha Yuan had already mastered the spiritualization technique. Caught off guard, the assassin not only failed, but was even swayed by Uchiha Yuan. After sorting this out, Uchiha Yuan's eyes were stern. Danzo, as a high-level Konoha, has no chance of revenge at the moment, but this assassin at the root. Uchiha Fuchi manipulated the assassin to take off his mask, and through the reflection of the metal forehead, he found that this face was quite unfamiliar, and it did not have the common features of several big families in the village. He unceremoniously crushed the opponent's consciousness curled up in the spiritual world, and then the soul returned to his body. Picking up the assassin's kunai, Uchiha Hitomi gave him a heart-warming blow. Immediately, he retreated to the entrance of the cave and formed a seal without hesitation. Art Fire Escape Ho Fireball. He already has information about the spiritualization technique, and right now, Uchiha Yuan doesn't want any living people to know. After touching for about 5 minutes, Konoha ninja noticed the fire. When the Anbu arrived, they only had time to see the cave with hot embers, and a charred corpse curled up on the edge of the stone wall. At the moment, several Konoha Anbu ninjas used water to extinguish the fire, and soon they found Kurigakure's forehead guard in the cave, as well as the Kurigakure Anbu mask that had not been completely burned in the dead corner of the cave. After the scene was brought under control, Uchiha Fuchi grabbed the arm of an Anbu ninja out of breath. Kuragakure, it's the Kurigakure ninja who attacked me. Save me. The news that the Kurigakure ninja appeared in the stronghold quickly spread. All the Konoha ninjas were under martial law, and even Uchiha Fuchi was monitored and protected by Anbu. Fortunately, it didn't take long for Orochimaru and Danzo to appear in the cave where he was under house arrest. Oshimaru, is this the Uchiha Fuchi whose soul strength you said is no worse than Kato's? Glanced by the one-eyed Danzo, Uchiha Fuchi has the awe-inspiring look of a sheep being coveted by a hungry wolf. Yes, Danzo-sama, although he hasn't opened Sharingan yet, his soul aptitude is very strong. Well, train him as soon as possible to the extent that he can contribute to this mission. After speaking, Danzo turned and left. From the beginning to the end, he didn't look at Uchiha Yuan directly. As Danzo left, the atmosphere calmed down silently. Well, when that adult is around, even I don't feel well. Orochimaru turned back to Onbi, and looked at Uchiha Fuchi with interest. Yuan-jun, I heard about those things. It seems that I underestimated you before, maybe you are the strongest of the 3 in the class. But these are not important anymore. In the next few days, I will personally guide you to practice the spiritualization technique. Uchiha Yuan raised his head and moved slightly, like a child who has just found comfort after being wronged. But where Orochimaru couldn't notice, the knuckles of his fingers were tense. Uchiha Fuchi didn't think that Danzo would give up on the men who broke the roots. In order to prevent the recurrence of incidents such as Karakur sneak attack, Orochimaru specially arranged a practice place for his disciples. Under the dim candlelight, the teacher and the student sat cross-legged. The task has already started, and Orochimaru is equally busy. He can only squeeze out time to help Uchiha Yuan master the spiritualization technique. Relax your body, now I will unseal the contract on you. When Orochimaru showed his side as a teacher, he was always the coveted mentor of ordinary ninjas. Under his guidance, Uchiha Yuan practiced the spiritual art, and the results were gratifying. You can feel your body break free from the confines of your physical body and float in a void. Orochimaru's voice followed the guidance, but Uchiha Yuan just moved his soul up 3 inches. After completely mastering the spiritualization technique, this kind of trick is easy. Sure enough, you are more suitable for spiritualization than Kato Duan. It took him a whole week to achieve the effect, but you only took 1 day. Orochimaru's rare tone of joy. In this regard, Uchiha Yuan didn't even bother to roll his eyes. He just, barely, showed his progress in accordance with the requirements provided by Orochimaru. However, as long as your soul can leave your body, it's much easier to cast the spiritualization technique. In the next time, you have to quickly get used to this state. Afterwards, I will order someone to teach you the illusion that can shake the tailed beast. Uchiha Fuchi, whose soul returned to his body, was pale, looking like he had consumed too much chakra. The sound next to my ears was like the explosion of a tailed beast jade. Illusion. Teacher, do I need to use illusion to fight against tailed beasts? Take a deep breath and slap your face. Let yourself become more energetic, and then Uchiha Fuchi asked Orochimaru, with lingering fear. Of course, you may not understand this aspect yet. Tailed beasts have thick skin and a huge amount of chakra, and few ninjas can compete head-on. At this time, you need to target the tailed beast's weakness. Spirit or soul. Originally, the spirit and mystery of the mountain clan is very suitable for dealing with tailed beasts, but their soul strength cannot be compared with yours at all. And under the influence of the tailed beast's soul, they couldn't even keep calm. And the ninjutsu performed with the spirit and soul is consistent with the illusion, mainly using the yin attribute chakra. With the strength of your soul, you won't be affected even if you face the tailed beast directly. Then your illusion will definitely work on tailed beasts. You must know that wild-tailed beasts don't have Renjuli to help dispel illusions. Uchiha Yuan listened thoughtfully to Orochimaru's ninjutsu analysis. It was the first time that he understood the concept of his own soul strength. The soul will not be affected when facing the tailed beast. This kind of evaluation comes from the mouth of the movie-level powerhouse Orochimaru, and the credibility is not low. So, teacher, I will face the tailed beast when I perform the task. It will be dangerous, right? Even if the soul is really powerful, Uchiha Yuan doesn't want to take risks, let alone facing a tailed beast. Rarely, Orochimaru did not support his forehead because of his disciples' greed for life and fear of death. Don't worry, Mr. Yuan. When the time comes, all you need to do is obey the order and release an illusion to Sanwei. As I promised, the teacher will keep you safe. I see, it turned out to be like this. Uchiha Fuchi breathed a sigh of relief. The disciples' greedy life and fear of death made Orochimaru repeatedly support his forehead. Okay, Mr. Yuan. In the next time, you have to practice keeping your soul outside your body for 3 minutes. At that time, I will arrange for someone to teach you illusion. After Orochimaru gave his instructions, he disappeared into the shadows without a sound. Uchiha Yuan couldn't adapt to the way of teacher Orochimaru's elusiveness for a while. Although there are a lot of secrets on him, fortunately, as long as he doesn't take the initiative to reveal it, he doesn't have to worry about the risk of exposure. Lying on the stone couch and pretending to be practicing the spiritualization technique, Uchiha Fuchi's mind was racing with thoughts. In fact, battle intelligence between ninjas is crucial. This time to confront Kurigakure, Konoha sent teacher Orochimaru and Elder Danzo and other cage-level powerhouses. Although Orochimaru is a scientific ninja, his combat effectiveness should not be underestimated. Elder Danzo and Sandai Hokage are people of the same period. Even if they have been busy with Konoha's internal and external affairs these years, they will not waste much of their abilities. Orochimaru and Danzo appear here at the same time, at least it means that Kurigakure will also send corresponding cage-level powerhouses. Sure enough, Sanwei Isofu is very important. Whispering in his heart, Uchiha Yuan's mood became heavier and heavier. I actually want to intervene in the confrontation between the tailed beast and the shadow-level ninja. Thinking about it, I feel that the future is dark. Sure enough, it's all the fault of Uchiha's surname. Pulling back Piao Yuan's thoughts, Uchiha Yuan opened his eyes, and there were already many people in the cave. Junior sister Midori Anko put her hands behind her back and looked down at herself with a smile. Hee, Uchiha Fuchi. When you were huddled in the cave, I fought against the Kurigakure ninja. Hongdu seemed to be in good spirits, but there was a bruise on his forehead, his left wrist was wrapped in a bandage, and the already light girlish body fragrance on his body was overwhelmed by the smell of blood. Obviously, it didn't take much advantage to fight against the Kurigakure ninja. Then you are one step behind me. I have already killed a Kurigakure Anbu long before you fought against Kurigakure ninja. Uchiha Yuan gave a thumbs up and nodded himself. Is that a lie? Hongdu was stunned for a moment, then suddenly remembered the riot last night. It is said that an infiltrated Kurigakure Anbu was killed on the spot. The corpses were miserable, all charred. The effect is indeed like the fire escape ninjutsu that the Uchiha family is good at. Among the Konoha ninjas present, there were not many ninjas who could easily kill Kurigakure Anbu, but Uchiha Fuchi insisted that he did it by himself, and Hongdu really couldn't refute it. After all, she never got any advantage from Uchiha Hitomi during several trials, and the other party still looked like he didn't give his best. Really, you did it? Uchiha Yuan replied unceremoniously. Otherwise it could be you. Midori Anko who was hit was instantly like a deflated ball, and the happiness of the whole person was taken away. Uchiha Yuan didn't bother to talk to her. The location of the cave where I practiced was specially arranged by Orochimaru. The little junior sister was able to come here, probably because her teacher Orochimaru ordered her to take care of her body after performing the spiritualization technique. A battle with Kurigakure will inevitably break out soon, and it is impossible for Orochimaru's cage-level combat power to be distracted and take care of himself. But my little junior sister doesn't even mention it. She is really a passionate and confused person. Uchiha Fuchi became playful, and he borrowed Shizir to kill the candlelight with a shuriken technique. In the pitch-black cave, a faint white figure slowly emerged in the air. Uchiha Fuchi's soul stiffened, walking step by step in front of Midori Anko, like a 100-year-old zombie lying in the grave. Hongdu's already dilated pupils were forced to focus, and a gray figure that was so frightened that it lost its soul gradually solidified. The sad wind howls passed. The frightened expression on Midori Anko's face was like a comic strip played frame by frame. When she screamed out, Uchiha Yuan's soul had already retracted into her body. Uchiha Fuchi, whose playfulness was satisfied, said innocently, "Little junior sister, why are you screaming? Could it be that Kurigakure ninjas have come here?" But his heart was filled with a refreshing pleasure of revenge. It's been a long time since Uchiha Fuchi's bitter junior sister has been showing off her might. Originally, Uchiha Fuchi thought that Midori Anko was the youngest in Orochimaru's class and would be authorized to take care of herself. After all, this is not a dangerous task. But I didn't expect to change shifts the next day. When Hinata Ryo came to the cave with a bamboo basket, Uchiha Fuchi had just woken up. "Mr. Yuan, good morning. You must be hungry. This is a special breakfast for you." Morning. As soon as Uchiha Fuchi rubbed his eyes awake, his nose was attracted by the strong smell of meat. When ninjas go out to perform missions, they often come here by gnawing dry food and drinking clean water, and the occasional opportunity for a toothbrush depends on luck. Hinata Ling smiled and shook the bamboo basket. "It's half a charcoal grilled rabbit. I ate half with red bean Zion, and the other half is reserved for you." Uchiha Yuan became energetic in an instant, and ate all the dry food. This half charcoal grilled rabbit is simply a killer. The glutton squirmed in his mouth, but he didn't have any clothes on his body, so Uchiha Fuchi didn't move rashly for a while. Seeing this, Hinata Hishibe smiled secretly. Hey, it's a pity. Mr. Yuan doesn't seem to like eating rabbit meat. Rabbits are delicious. Hyuga Ling carelessly tore off half of the rabbit's leg and began to bite it. Taking advantage of her turning around to wipe the oil stains from the corners of her mouth, Uchiha Fuchi immediately put on his coat and grabbed the bamboo basket. There is not much left of the delicious charcoal grilled rabbit meat. After simply eating breakfast to supplement nutrition, Uchiha Yuan has a lot of energy. He has always felt that among the members of Orochimaru's class, Hyuga Ryo is the most incomprehensible. For example, the other party is obviously a glutton, but he is always very reserved. Even in many things, he showed maturity and courage that did not meet his age. Because of this, Uchiha Fuchi always thinks that Hinata Ryo is a black-bellied girl. But I have to admit that this ninja from the Hyuga branch is much more professional than Midori Anko. After eating, she explained to Uchiha Yuan that she was entrusted by Mr. Oshimaru to take care of him. This reassured Uchiha Yuan a lot, and immediately entered the state of practicing the spiritualization technique. Neither he nor Hyuga Ryo are good at talking, and they sat alone watching with relish, occasionally alerting the movement outside the cave. Uchiha Yuan concentrated on his practice. This time his soul left his body for more than 10 seconds, which was more than double the 3 or 4 seconds it took to scare Hongdu last night. Of course, this is the result of Uchiha Yuan's deliberate control. Then, he keenly felt the violent fluctuation of Hyuga Ling's chakra. When Uchihabuchi returned to his body and looked at the past, Hyuga Ling was squatting in the corner with his back to him. The 2 elegant full moons with astonishing arcs were just reflected in the eyes. Uchiha Fuchi feasted his eyes and felt embarrassed at the same time. Since the looting of Obito's base, there is a problem that has been plaguing Uchiha Fuchi. Fragments of alien golems with life cannot be stored in the sealed scroll at all. In desperation, Uchiha Yuan could only hide it in his underwear pocket. This is not only for the convenience of chakra supply, but also for the idea that the location is private and difficult to be discovered. Unexpectedly, just when the soul left the body, the fragments of the golem hidden in the pocket of the underwear suddenly started to move. This obviously misunderstood Hinata Ryo, who was watching. Uchiha Fuchi had the urge to vomit blood, and his image absolutely collapsed in Ling's heart. My innocence. Single quote. Uchiha Fuchi beat his chest with his hands. Uchiha Yuan, who had calmed down, quickly examined himself. At the critical moment of practicing ninjutsu, it is not my style to be distracted. But why do the fragments of heretic golems cause commotion for no reason? Could it be that Obito is trying to control the golem itself? Uchiha Yuan shook his head. He had already cut off the connection between the fragment and the golem body. Even if there was a major change on the body, it would theoretically not affect the fragment in his hand at all. Could it be? Uchiha Fuchi looked at Hinata Ryo with his back turned to him in surprise. The fragments of the golem are closely related to Otsuki Kagaya, and the white-eyed blood inheritance passed down by the Hinata family since ancient times comes from Otsuki Kagaya. Could it be that Bayan had a subtle reaction with the fragments of the golem that he didn't understand? Just when Uchiha Yuan guessed various possibilities, the cave suddenly shook, rustling gravel falling from the top of the head. When everything calmed down, the outside also became noisy. Realizing that this place has become unsafe, Hinata Ling ran out of the cave with a tense expression. When she came back, she brought back a piece of news that made Uchiha Yuan stunned. Konoha has already found the trace of Mio Isofu, and the attempt to seal it failed. Coincidentally, at the same time, Mio Isobu's Kurigakure was discovered, trying to let the young Luwei Jinchuriki bubble consume Mio Isobu's physical strength. Under Konoha Fang's desperate stop, Mio Isofu managed to escape. Hearing this, Uchiha Yuan understood the reason for the commotion of the golem fragments. The heretical golem is the shell of 9-tailed beasts, and 2-tailed beasts nearby are beating the world upside down. How can the fragments of the golem be quiet? Yuan-jun, it's becoming more and more dangerous outside. I'm under the order of teacher Orochimaru to protect you, but please don't make such nasty jokes on me. Hyuga Ling calmed down faster than ordinary ninjas, and the protection mission was still more than half a day away. In order to avoid embarrassment, She could only reprimand Uchihabuchi seriously to prevent the other party from making another frivolous move. In this regard, Uchiha Yuan could only smile wryly and shake his head. This small turmoil passed quickly, and Hinata Ryo never said a word to Uchiha Yuan again. There was no delicious rabbit meat for lunch, so the two of them could only make do with dry food. Fortunately, the afternoon passed very quickly in the state of the two of them cultivating and protecting respectively. As soon as night fell, Kurama Zion, the substitute teacher of Orochimaru's class, came to change classes with Ryo Hinata. The two women talked for a full quarter of an hour outside the cave before Uchiha Fuchi saw the pommel horse Zion with a bandage around his neck. Her complexion was very bad, obviously she didn't get cheap in the encounter with Kurigakure. In fact, Kurama Zion is only 3 or 4 years older than Uchiha Yuan. If it weren't for World War III, Orochimaru had been a personal bodyguard for half a year in order to vote for Danzo. The blood-successful ninja of the Kurama family may not have the opportunity to personally train the Orochimaru class. Yuanjin, I heard what Hongdu told Ling. Now can you tell me that those are all misunderstandings? After the injury, Zion Pommel has a kind of majesty like ice, coupled with her unique pommel horse illusion technique blood succession boundary. Just listening to her talk, Uchiha Yuan had the illusion that he had made a mistake and was repenting in his heart. Fortunately, this kind of psychological suggestion is not a rigorous illusion. After trying his best to suggest himself, Uchiha Yuan returned to normal. Pommel Zion sneered. HMPH, you child, you are indeed not young. No matter what you think about them, we are still performing missions outside. It will not be too late to talk about everything when we return to the village, right? Seeing Uchiha Fuchi opened his mouth slightly, with an expression of embarrassment that could not be said, Kurama Zion chuckled. Why, I'm your substitute teacher. Can I still not understand you three? Yes, Teacher Zion, you were right. Uchiha Fuchi raised his eyebrows, obviously playing tricks on his junior sister, and the misunderstanding with Ryo Hinata caused Kurama Zion to have a deeper misunderstanding. This substitute teacher is a serious woman. For the sake of the atmosphere when the Orochimaru class performs tasks together in the future, Uchiha Fuchi can only bite the bullet and tell she and Kurama that he is just playing for a while, and will never do this again. Something happened. Oh, so you think so? Kurama Zion took the topic away with a half smile. How is it? How is the practice of spiritualization art? We are not at all easy on Kurigakure. Kurama Zion is a special ninja, and it is important to understand Uchiha Yuan's situation better. The atmosphere eased visibly with the naked eye, Kurama Zion said calmly. Half of Kurigakure's Anbu participated in this operation, and even the Kurigakure blood family who were unwilling to contribute in the Third War participated. In addition, Mizukage III also rushed to the country of the sea in person. Teacher Orochimaru is busy dealing with the other party. We are seriously short of manpower, but Master Danzo has no idea of asking the village for help. Biting her lip, Kurama Zion stroked the bandage around her neck, which was her counterattack when she cooperated with Orochimaru to ambush Mizukage III. Although not fatal, it is unforgettable between life and death. Uchiha Yuan listened silently. He always thought that Kurigakure would send cage-level powerhouses to participate in the action, but he didn't expect the third Mizukage to come in person. This representative of the Wuin Hawk faction is said to be the source of the Blood Mist Village in Wuin Village. Because of his ineffectiveness against Konoha during the Third World War, he is being impeached by the high-level Kurigakure headed by Genshi and Gonhai. Now that he is on the front line in person, it can be seen that Kurigakure is determined to win Mio Isao. Uchiha Hitomi believes that Kurigakure may not only send a cage-level powerhouse from the third generation of Mizukage, considering that the Six Tails Jinchuriki bubble will come to the front line in person. Foam's master, Wyan Sealer Chunyu probably also participated in this mission. After practicing the spiritualization technique, Uchiha Yuan was extremely wary of the sealer. In short, Konoha is completely at a disadvantage. The good news is that our sealing squad has been fully organized so far, and there is still room for dealing with Kurigakure. The Kurigakure ninjas are not as united as we thought. Kurama Zion added something, and then narrowed his eyes to look at Uchiha Fuchi. Listening to Hongdu and Ling, you seem to have a good grasp of the spiritualization technique. Seeing the substitute teacher's tone of affirmation, Uchiha Fuchi didn't hesitate, and showed the progress of the spiritualization technique on the spot. In fact, Uchiha Fuchi, who has long mastered the spiritualization technique, can achieve a three-dimensional soul for an hour, and perfectly perform the three accompanying secret techniques. But the current display, of course, has to be put away. Compared with scaring Hongdu, the soul left the body in seconds. Now, under the deliberate control of Uchiha Yuan, the soul can already leave the body for 1 minute. Kurama Zion was obviously very satisfied with the result. Yuan-jun, teacher Orochimaru must have greeted you. After you have initially mastered the spiritualization technique, you still need to practice illusion. Uchiha Yuan smiled. Mr. Zion, could it be that you are the illusion instructor appointed by Mr. Orochimaru? Hearing this, Kurama Zion confidently puffed up her chest. Except for me, who inherited the blood succession of the Kurama family's illusion art, who else could it be? Yuan-jun, in the next time, I need to teach you a lot. Looking closer, Uchiha Fuchi felt that Kurama Zion looked like Konoha Onbi Azuki Yugao with black hair and single ponytail. But the difference is that Kurama Zion is good at illusion, and it is precisely because of her expertise in illusion that she was selected as a special ninja at her age. In fact, Uchiha Fuchi was a little surprised that Kurama Zion was his illusion instructor. After all, the Kurama clan and the Uchiha clan used to be at odds with each other because of the affiliation of Konoha's strongest illusion family. Uchiha Hitomi thinks, teacher Orochimaru must have been bothering about this matter a lot. But having said that, the blood inheritance illusion of the Pommel Horse clan doesn't need to be written in the slightest. Developed to the extreme, the illusion of the Pommel Horse family can perfectly control the five senses, and even the damage in the illusion can be manifested to the recipient. It can be said that it has a background comparable to the top kaleidoscope writing sharing eye illusion. It is said that when the first Hokage went out to capture the tailed beast, he invited the head of the Kurama family at that time to go with him. Since then, there have even been rumors in Konoha Hidden Village that the illusion of the Pommel Horse clan is enough to deter tailed beasts. Uchiha Fuchi, who didn't even open Sharingan, naturally wouldn't dislike Kurama Zion. What is strange to him is that the Pommel Horse clan's illusion is based on blood succession and requires a unique bloodline to perform. As for bloodlines, there is no way to teach them, unless one uses one's own ability to fuse genes to obtain the bloodlines of the Kurama family, and then develops the illusion of blood succession. What's worse, since devouring the gene of the golem of the outside world, Uchiha Yuan can feel that his body's endurance seems to have reached a limit. In a short period of time, there is no way to integrate the genes of other species. This made Uchiha Fuchi very curious. How did Kurama Zion teach himself illusion? If it is an ordinary illusion, can it really shake the tailed beast as it wishes? Yuanjin, you look like you don't trust me at all. Kurama Zion twitched her nose, angrily, and her pupils continued to enlarge with her quiet smile. Uchiha Fuchi smelled the sweet fragrance of a girl's body, and a chuckle like a silver bell echoed in his ears, and Kurama Zion in front of him became demure and dignified, as if this substitute teacher had always been his dream lover. In a daze, Uchiha Fuchi felt that he was holding a pair of soft cotton hands, and the whole person was light, and in the soft call, he opened his mouth, a peeled grape, which made his lips and teeth sweet and cool. Uchiha Fuchi knew that in the cave on the island, such a beautiful scene would never appear. He understands that the current self has been quietly dominated by the illusion of Kurama Zion. As a member of the Orochimaru class, Uchiha Yuan has naturally learned the solution of illusion. But no matter whether he tried to refine more violent chakra to disturb the flow of chakra controlled by Pommel Horse Zion, or bit the tip of his tongue to create pain to get rid of the illusion, the scene in front of him did not change. Kurama Zion is like the most beautiful and delicious beauty in Konoha Hidden Village, just being watched by her peacefully. Uchiha Fuchi can feel the happiness overflowing his chest. Sanity was gradually preserved, and in reality Uchiha Yuan couldn't breathe in horror. In the illusion, he was immersed in the sweetness and could not feel the slightest pain. The blood successor of the Pommel Horse clan. An illusion that controls the five senses. Single quote. Uchiha Yuan suddenly realized that no matter what action he made, the feedback was given by Kurama Zion's chakra that controlled him. In the real world, I might just stand there and do nothing. Just when Uchiha Fuchi's remaining sanity was about to fall into this kind of gentleness, a clear snap of fingers exploded in his ears. The strange charm disappeared, and Uchiha Fuchi raised his head out of breath, just in time to meet Kurama Zion's purple pupils. "How is Mr. Yuan? Are you a little bit moved by me?" Kurama Zion smiled sweetly, but in the eyes of Uchiha Yuan, it was extremely frightening. Silently and easily controlling his 5 senses, if Kurama Zion thought about it, he might not even know how he died. "Mr. Yuan has a good expression." Kurama Zion playfully stroked her red lips with her fingers. After being reminded by her, Uchiha Fuchi noticed that the delicious smell of grapes still remained in his mouth. "All of this is beautiful and hides murderous intentions every step of the way." Uchiha Yuan's thoughts turned rapidly. Obviously, Kurama Zion's blood successive illusion has been developed to a certain extent. The smell of grapes left in his mouth is the proof. There is no reason why the bloodstain illusion, which can manifest damage, cannot manifest the sweet and sour taste. And the illusion that controls the 5 senses will dispel this strange feeling through sensory control when you feel uncoordinated, or even try to dispel the illusion. If it weren't for the strong soul that could always feel that kind of charming feeling, Uchiha Fuchi would probably be intoxicated in the illusion without knowing it. After thinking about this, stomach acid surged up instantly, and Uchiha Fuchi, who could only maintain his calm by breathing heavily, was shocked. Pommel Zion raised her pure white chin. "How about it? My blood succession illusion art is no worse than Sharingan." Uchiha Yuan nodded. The substitute teacher was as usual. She doesn't have the strength and courage of her teacher Dashawan, so she can only stand on the spot and frighten the Dashawan class. Uchiha Yuan thought that he was used to it, but he experienced it again, and his heart still had lingering fears. "Teacher Zion, I have never underestimated your illusion, but I have a question. How did you teach me such a powerful blood inheritance illusion? After all, I have no blood relationship with the teacher." "Oh, poor mouth." Zion on the pommel horse spat softly, and then said with a straight face. "Who said I'm going to teach you the blood succession illusion? This is an illusion after the fusion of chakras nature changes. You just want to learn it and don't have the qualifications." This, Uchiha Fuchi was annoyed. What kind of medicine was sold in this girl's gourd? "Didn't you say you want to be an instructor? However, I can teach you a set of 5 sense combination illusion." "Yuan Jun, don't underestimate this. I have practiced this set of combined illusions since I was a child, and this is the only time I have the opportunity to awaken the unique illusion of the Kurama family. If it's you, with a powerful soul and the spiritualization technique, you can easily shake the tailed beast with this combined illusion." "What? Don't you believe it?" These are the original words of teacher Oshimaru. Uchiha Yuan quickly analyzed the information obtained. Orochimaru once said that his soul is as powerful as a tailed beast, and when performing the spiritualization technique, the most active part of his soul state is the yin chakra. Under such conditions, the illusions cast are definitely not weak. Moreover, according to Kurama Zion, what she wants to teach herself is not the blood succession illusion, but the simpler 5 sense combination illusion. When he was ravaged by Kurama Zion illusion, Uchiha Yuan had already analyzed that his facial features were dominated by 5 different yin chakras. The 5 yin chakras that want to dominate the 5 senses are the root of the combined illusion. This kind of combination illusion is naturally not as good as the blood succession illusion of the Kurama family, which can realize damage, but under the premise of meeting various conditions, fighting against tailed beasts is not a dream. "Teacher Zion, teach me." The idea is clear, and Uchiha Yuan has no reason to refuse. "Now I have no way out except to act according to the arrangement of my teacher Oshimaru." "Of course, Mr. Yuan." Kurama Zion agreed equally frankly. Afterwards, she told Uchiha Yuan the trick of this combined illusion. The core point is naturally to create a yin chakra that can dominate the 5 senses of the subject. After Kurama Zion taught him how to form seals and perform tricks, and introduced the range of illusion and the corresponding solutions, Uchiha Yuan closed his eyes, and regained the feeling of learning ninjutsu at a high speed after fusing the golem gene. "By the way, Mr. Yuan, there is one thing I want to add. The name of this combined illusion is Wanlian Killing. It is the brainchild of the Kurama family. Don't let it down." The satisfaction of learning flashed by, and Uchiha Fuchi opened his eyes in satisfaction. Of course, I will not disappoint Teacher Zion's hard work. Oh, poor mouth. Uchiha Fuchi smiled heartily, and with the effort of breathing, he has perfectly mastered the combined illusion, Phantom Lotus Kill. Sometimes Uchiha Hitomi feels that the high-speed learning ability is really not as convenient as imagined. After mastering the illusion of the lotus perfectly, he had to slowly recall every detail of the practice of this combined illusion. Fortunately, Kurama Zion was not entrusted by Orochimaru to monitor the progress of his practice. As long as Uchiha Fuchi doesn't perform it face-to-face, the substitute teacher has no idea how talented his students are. As time passed day by day, Kurama Zion, Midori Anko and Hinata Ling changed shifts to guard day and night. But Uchiha Yuan could only repeat his practice life boringly. During his spare time, Uchiha Yuan suddenly realized something. Performing spiritualization technique and Wanlian killing at the same time, isn't this a set of combined ninjutsu? As soon as this idea was born, Uchiha Fuchi had the idea of developing his own ninjutsu. At this time, the disadvantages of mastering ninjutsu at high speed appear. Uchiha Yuan lacks sufficient detailed knowledge of ninjutsu, which also makes him confused about the development of ninjutsu. Fortunately, Uchiha Yuan has perfectly mastered the ninjutsu required by teacher Orochimaru. He simply recalled the details of how he mastered ninjutsu to consolidate the theoretical foundation. In Uchiha Yuan's view, Phantom Lotus Killing is more complicated than Dark Night Walking Art, which is also an A-level illusion. The latter effect shields the vision and blinds the spirit, while the former dominates the five senses of the subject. You must know that whether it is a human, a ninja beast or even a tailed beast, they all perceive the world from the most basic five senses. Dominating the five senses is equivalent to dominating everything in front of the subject in disguise. The greater the gap between your own chakra amount and the subject, the greater the dominance effect will be. Although it is still unable to control the mind of the subject as one likes, the effect of Phantom Lotus Killing can be called appalling. Of course, because it needs to control the five senses of the enemy at the same time, there are also disadvantages of slow start and slow effect when using Wanlian Kill in normal state. Uchiha Fuchi himself does not have the bloodline of the Kurama family, and this hidden danger cannot be eliminated in a short time. Because of this, the damage of the illusion Lotus Killer he mastered was much worse than that of the pommel horse Zion's realizing illusion technique. But against those enemies with weak spirits and souls, it is definitely a big killer. Recalling this point, Uchiha Yuan quietly formed a seal, letting the soul body out of the body. Then his soul was sealed again. In the soul state, Uchiha Yuan is not worried about the interruption of the seal process, which is also the advantage of combined ninjutsu. Silently feeling that my five senses have become sharper, and all kinds of feelings are like the winter sun shining on my body, giving people the illusion of sublimation in situ. This is the disadvantage of performing spells in the state of the soul. As a caster, Uchiha Yuan can be immune to most of the effects. At this time, he was floating in the air, looking around the entire cave with his usual expression. The body is lying on the stone couch, the breathing is smooth, and the chakra flow is normal. Yuan-jun, Ling is going to perform a task tonight, and I will take over. How is your progress in illusion? Before Uchiha Yuan could release the illusion, Kurama Zion walked into the cave by himself. The voice in the ear became distant, like an angel singing. Kurama Zion smelled her favorite cotton candy, and she saw Konoha's old house in a daze, and her mother was stretching out her rough hands to caress her forehead. At that moment of trance, Kurama Zion realized that he had been hit by an illusion. She immediately understood that this was the Phantom Lotus Killer, but after performing the corresponding unseal, nothing changed in the surroundings. Kurama Zion even felt that he jumped into his mother's arms happily, greedily licking the marshmallow in the woman's hand. Sweet and intoxicating. It's an illusion. Wake up. Single quote. Phantom. What? This feeling is so nostalgic. Single quote. Whenever the idea of wanting to wake up arises, the manipulated five senses will burst out with a huge temptation, making Kurama Zion involuntarily intoxicated. At this time, Uchiha Fuchi, who had not lifted the illusion, looked around in surprise. After performing the illusion, he found that the soul body did not stay in the familiar cave, but appeared in an old house in the style of Konoha. When he saw Zion, a pommel horse that was only as high as his waist, in the arms of a woman who looked 8/4 like her. Uchiha Fuchi instantly understood that this was Kurama Zayan's memory illusion. In fact, there are different considerations when performing the illusion of the lotus. As the caster, Uchiha Fuchi can naturally designate a terrifying illusion to drain the willpower of the subject. Of course, he can also induce the most desired scene in the subject's heart as an illusion. At the beginning, when Uchiha Fuchi fell into Kurama Zayan illusion, he suspected that the substitute teacher deliberately beautified her image in his heart. Learning from this lesson, Uchiha Yuan did not deliberately specify the content of the illusion when he tried. Unexpectedly, Zayan on the pommel horse jumped in and got tricked. In fact, Uchiha Fuchi, who is currently using his soul body to perform illusions, is already enough to shake the tail beast, and Kurama Zayan is naturally unable to resist. The only solution is for Uchiha Yuan to take the initiative to release the illusion. Looking at the warm-modeled and faded picture, Uchiha Fuchi quietly formed a seal. Falling back from memory to reality, Kurama Zayan was at a loss for a moment. But as a master of illusion, she soon realized that the illusion in herself had been unraveled. He glared at the perpetrator of the prank, his student Uchiha Fuchi. Pommel Zayan gritted his teeth. Yuan-jun, it's only been a few days, and you have learned this combined illusion. Your talent is very high, but do you want to die like that? Seeing Shion Kurama's moist and bright eyes, Uchiha Fuchi was momentarily at a loss for words. I really didn't intend to hypnotize this substitute teacher. Just when Uchiha Yuan repeatedly practiced and verified the spiritualization technique and phantom lotus killing. Hinata Ryo and Mitarai Anko, who belonged to the Orochimaru class, were not idle either. As a rare sentient ninja, there is also a vigorous master attacker. Hyuga Ryo and Mitarai Anko are temporarily assigned to a team to perform tasks. Partnering with them are the two Konoha Onbi. During this period of time, the friction and conflict between Konoha Hidden Village and Wuin Village continued, and Anbu, who was the main force of Konoha's side, suffered a lot of casualties. In desperation, Danzo can only choose elite ninjas to mix and match with Anbu to perform tasks. Tonight, the task of Ling and Hongdu's team is to find Mio Isofu, who is hiding. Since that day, after Isofu severely injured the Seal Master Kurigakure and the immature Six-Tails Jinchuriki, this behemoth has been hiding in the lakes on the strange island. Countless ninja teams from Konoha and Kurigakure searched for the whereabouts of Mio Isofu day and night. Fortunately, the strange island is big enough, Konoha ninja will occasionally encounter Kurigakure when he is in action. Otherwise, with Kurigakure's twice as many troops, even if Konoha's side has better ninja quality, they won't be able to survive the current situation. Under the light of Maoyuayu, Hyuga Ling and Kurama Zayan formed a formation and lurked behind the boulders along with a silver-haired Anbu. The blood vessels in Chuza's eyes were tense, and the white eyes that were as pure as snow opened quietly. Hinata Ling turned his head and scanned the darkness around him. The cold moonlight cast beams of changing light through the gaps in the leaves, Hinata Ling whispered. At 2 o'clock, the enemy chakra respawns 800 meters away, 4 people. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.